I'm going to handle you over to this hard to handle boy.
How are you getting on now, Lee?
Oh, I'm tired today.
Are you enjoying being viral?
What do you mean viral?
Well, you did a video yesterday. You went viral, didn't you?
No, we did a video.
Yeah, obviously, as usual, I look like the boring old fart.
You did look a bit farty, all right.
Yeah, but that was acting.
No, that's you.
No,
Don't you? No.
I was acting, and you were like, "Oh, look at me, Lee.
Overacting.
I'm in the morning. I'm
look,
young
so
and
great.
fun."
No, but you are. Do you know?
Someone called me a boring old fart.
I seen that. How hurtful was that?
Completely not hurtful at all, by the way, just in case the person did it listening. It was
they want to do it again?
No.
But it's good to be yourself, Greg, in these videos. Do you know what I mean?
I wasn't myself, though.
Were you not?
No, I wasn't myself.
Yes, that's nice.
No, I'm good fun.
It's good to be comfortable in your own skin. It's okay.
Right, okay. Well,
I want to play with you.
That's Oscar. I deserve an Oscar for that.
You did. All the tickets
to go along with my other
sorry
award.
I didn't kiss you in the head, but I would have slap.
No.
I would have got a slap.
That would have been a HR job.
Oh, give me a good luck.
All right, Lee, take care of yourself. 9 o'clock and time for a news update, and it's over to Donald Kavanagh. Good morning, Donald.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. The chair of Donegal County Council's Defective Concrete Blocks Committee says issues with the council's online portal have been resolved and it will be back online and functioning properly within days. Councillor Mark McDermott was responding to comments from Milford and District Resource Centre Manager Declan Meehan, who called on the council to get its act together after reports that people couldn't upload invoices onto the portal. Mr Meehan, who plans to contest the forthcoming local elections, questioned whether builders and others would engage with the scheme in terms of staged payments if the portal wasn't functioning. Well, Councillor McDermott says a resolution is imminent.
The new system and the new portal is something that had to be rewrote when the new scheme came in. That was in place a number of weeks back, but the system actually didn't work. There was an issue with it. It had to go back to IT to be relooked at. Now the system is back with the council ready to go within the next couple of days. That system will be up and running, and that should make life a lot easier for both the homeowner and the professional.
The deal done with the DUP to get the Northern Executive and Assembly running again will go before the UK House of Commons today, with suggestions that the Assembly could meet within days. Meanwhile, bus and train services aren't running across the north again today as workers at Translink stage a further work stoppage over pay. With the return of Stormont imminent, workers are being asked to defer future strikes because money will be available for increased public sector pay as a result of the deal. Well, the Northern Secretary Chris Heaton-Harris is confirming there will be more money on the table for public services.
This will release over £3 billion in funding to support Northern Ireland's public services and provide a solid foundation for the Executive to deliver better outcomes in the day-to-day lives of the people of Northern Ireland.
And Donegal County Council and Fáilte Ireland are discussing a proposal that they pilot a bespoke festival and events development programme that will target a number of festivals and events within a 3-year funding commitment of €4,000 per year, accompanied by a series of other supports. Details emerged this week as members passed a motion from Councillor Barry Sweeney that the current model be amended. At present, applications for funding are invited in January or February each year, with decisions announced in March. However, because any money granted has to be spent by the end of the year, Councillor Sweeney says that effectively precludes festivals in the first 2 months from the scheme.
It excludes some of the festivals that would be happening earlier in the year, and as you know now, we've got the bank holiday weekend coming up. There's some great festivals and events happening around the county, like for example Féile na Man in Bundoran is one that there's a lot of celebration of St Bridget and of women of the area, and it's difficult for them to plan and fund their festivals without this support. It's not a massive fund, but it is very helpful to a lot of these small festivals.
Weather forecast: after a sunny start, it'll become cloudier through the afternoon with patchy light rain, drizzle and mist developing later. Temperatures steadily rising to near 10 degrees Celsius by evening, with light winds increasing moderate to fresh southerly through the day. Patches of light rain, drizzle and mist tonight. Overnight temperatures unchanged at between 10 and 11 degrees Celsius, with moderate to fresh and gusty southwest winds, strong at times in coastal areas. That's Highland Radio News. Back with news in full at 10 o'clock. Check all of the day's news on our website, highlandradio.com.
You know when you're flying back from some winter sun, you take an epic cloud pic, but it's got your sunburnt reflection in the window. Well, the new Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra has built-in AI that removes reflections and even touches up your pic so well, you'll be drowning in fire emojis.
Galaxy AI is here. Buy now from Samsung and get up to €730 off when you trade in your old smartphone. Purchase by 29th of Feb. €730 based on Galaxy S23 Ultra 256GB. Values vary by model and condition. T's and C's apply.
And now, it's time for the talk of the Northwest. The 9 Til Noon Show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello, a very good morning to you. 4 minutes past 9 on this Thursday. It's the 1st of February. What a long year January was. And you're welcome into the second month of the year. And it is, as I said, 5 minutes past 9, and it is the 9 Til Noon Show. We're with you for the next 3 hours on this programme. Lots coming up on the show as always. We're going to keep you across all the major topics that are making you talk at home, and I'm sure out and about or wherever you are. Later on too, we're going to be talking history with Dr. Joe. Looking forward to that. We're going to be speaking about the person after which McGill Summer School was named after, and talking about a little bit about that history as well. And that normally takes us down a path where we start talking about lots of people. Anyway, that and so much more besides, and we want your views and your comments and your emails. I'll tell you how you get in touch with us, will I? It's 086 60 25,000. That's WhatsApps and texts. Just to invite you, by the way, if you want to have your say via WhatsApp voice note, feel free to send us the voice note, and we can play it out for you as well if you feel that helps you get your point across. And not everyone really is as is as comfortable typing words out as other people are. So we want everyone to have their say. So if you prefer, for whatever reason, it could be that, it could be just the way you prefer to communicate, hold the mic down and send us a voice message if you want to have your say that way. If you want to give us a call, 07491 25,000. Caroline, as always, taking your calls, and Shannon working away on the programme as well. And you can email comments at highlandradio.com. Right, let's get through a look at some of the newspapers now. We'll start with just the second page of the Donegal News this morning. Planners at Donegal County Council have sought more information from the applicant of a proposed Islamic Cultural Centre in Letterkenny. Letterkenny Islamic Association, CLG, lodged plans in November 23 for the construction of the centre in Lisnanen. The proposed development comprises a ground and first floor, mezzanine prayer hall, areas for males and females, a coffee dock and sandwich bar area, and a library and teaching room. Proposed plans also include the construction of an access road, footpaths, car park and bicycle rack site, works, landscaping and bin enclosure, and so on and so forth. In a chief executive order issued in recent days, planners are requesting the applicant submit an archaeological assessment of the development site carried out by a suitably qualified archaeologist, which is standard practice with a lot of these planning applications. So that is, we understand the plans for the centre are progressing, and they are going to get that report and submit it to the council. The Derry News this morning: management of Derry's Northwest Regional College have been accused of bullying and harassing teaching staff in an attempt to break ongoing strike action. The claim from a lecturer who contacted Derry News followed receipt of a threatening, in inverted commas, letter signed by Principal and Chief Executive Leo Murphy. In his letter, Mr Murphy referenced the action short of strike being undertaken by members of the university and college union in the college. On to the Farmers Journal. And the Department of Agriculture has moved to allow more cows and calves to meet the terms of the Suckler Carbon Efficiency Programme following farmer outrage over changes to the Irish Cattle Breeding Federation indexes. Heifers out of geotyped cows in skep herds that are not eligible for skep on their own genomic evaluations may now become eligible if their size and dam meet a minimum requirement on the September 23 ICBF reevaluation. Now, evaluation, I beg your pardon. So it just points to the complexity of farming when you would even struggle to read it, let alone understand it. I know lots of people out in the farming community do, but there you go. That's the hoops that the farmers have to jump through. On to the Irish Times this morning, and the British measures which secured the Democratic Unionist Party's return to power sharing are expected to become law today, paving the way for the imminent restoration of the North's of North Ireland's political institutions. MPs will vote on 2 pieces of legislation following a debate in the House of Commons, but this is a formality as it has the support of both the British government and the main opposition party. The outgoing Speaker of the North's Assembly, Alex Maskey, wrote to MLAs yesterday to inform them preparations were being made to enable a sitting to take place at short notice in January 2020. The Assembly was summoned within 24 hours and a similar time frame may be necessary on this occasion, he wrote. Saturday is believed to be the most likely day for an Assembly recall, when the first order of business will be to nominate a Speaker and fill the First and Deputy First Minister's roles. So it seems like it is going to happen. And look, every society, for all their wrongs and rights, of course, every society functions better, it would seem, with a elected government in place. And that's the way it's going to be in the North in the coming days. A warning for those over 55. Older people and pensioners have been warned to stay vigilant after new figures showed a huge jump in fraud scams in the first half of last year. The industry group that represents banks found there had been a 26% rise in attempted scams compared with the same period a year earlier, with victims conned out of a total of €8.6 million. It said the over 55s were particularly vulnerable to financial scams, with large numbers getting hit for upwards of 5,000. And they come in all different shapes and sizes, and we cover them extensively on this programme. And I've always done so in the hope that we help, through the people that we work with, avoid people listening to this programme getting done by scams. But it happens all the time. We have to be extra careful. I would love to see the phone companies, the phone networks, the handset developers, the banks, the lending institutions all do a little bit more, or find a way whereby we can validate the messages that we receive. There has to be a way. I would love to see them do that, because the scammers can throw out such a wide net. They only need 1 or 2 of us to fall foul, and their money is made. More woes at RTE. The Irish Daily Mail reports, along with most other papers, a 400,000 golden handshake for RTE's former chief financial officer was signed off by the current head of HR under instructions from former Director General Dee Forbes. RTE Human Resources Director Emer Cusack issued an approval letter for Breda O'Keeffe's exit package, falsely stating it was signed off by the executive board, of which Ms Cusack was a member. So this is like €400,000 of taxpayers' money. Now, you could say, well, maybe it's half taxpayers' money, half ad money. I don't know. But anyway, whichever way, this is our money that people are obliged to pay. €400,000 of that was given to someone, and signed off by Dee Forbes. €400,000. Miss Cusack initially asked Miss Forbes if it was a good idea for the CFO to avail of the scheme, questioning how it would deliver cost savings. But proceedings to write the letter that made this agreement between Miss Forbes and Miss O'Keeffe are legally binding, so there's no out. RTE's Director General Kevin Backhurst said yesterday he was shocked at the revelation. Now, 3,500 regular people out there today are facing court for the non-payment of €160 licence fee. 3,500 people. Now, you can imagine the stress. You get a summons through the post, or you may have to go to court, or you feel you're obliged to do so, and you face the rigours of the law. Dee Forbes at the moment is can't answer questions. She's not well enough to answer questions. Many of the board are still in place in RTE. Breda O'Keeffe okayed this exit package with Dee Forbes. It's legally binding. It's locked in. It can't be changed. And that's it. And what everyone's disgusted, oh, this is terrible, but no consequences. And yet 3,500 people across this country are worried that they may have to go to court because they either choose not to or can't afford to pay their TV licence. There's a serious difference between the laws, it seems, and how it applies to you. Particularly, it seems, the more money you have. I don't know if you have any views on that. 086 60 25,000. Also widely reported, and I'll take it from the Irish Daily Star, members of the Defence Forces will be able to wear fake tan, nail polish, and grow beards under new regulations kicking in from today. And that's just the fellas. However, those wishing to grow facial hair have been warned its length will be monitored, while females must wear their locks in one of 6 different approved styles. Now, that might sound sound generous. But in North Korea, there's 14 styles of hair that women can choose from. In the army, it's only going to be 6. It also comes after the Commission on the Defence Force recommended outdated bans should be abolished 2 years ago. But army chiefs have warned the appearance will still be subject to close supervision to ensure that nothing should detract from the uniform. Permission to grow a beard must first be obtained from a commander, officer or a medical officer if the member is excused shaving due to a skin condition. The hair can be no more than 13 millimetres long and must start 1 inch above the Adam's apple and form a straight line below the cheekbone. Personnel still in training must stay clean shaven. Women, they can use nail varnish, but must use a range running from nude to baby pink. Sergeant Major Keith Caffrey, who's in charge of reviewing grooming standards, said they will apply to their unit commander, and there are specific reasons to not approve it, particularly in the operational environment. So nail polish, fake tan and beards, all okay for the army. As I say, it's widely reported. I'm not sure it's going to vex people out there one way or other. Is it? Maybe it is. Let us have your views. 086 60 25,000. Maybe there's someone feels very passionately that should not be the case. The Irish Sun today, the GEA is terrified by the scale of cocaine use among players, it's claimed, with one big-name county star seeking professional help for their drug addiction. Experts say the use of cocaine has gone through the roof at club level, while dozens of inter-county players are being treated for drugs, alcohol and gambling issues. Limerick hurling legend Kieran Carey, a psychotherapist who specialises in addiction through his company, My Move Counselling, yesterday said the cocaine issue has gone through the roof at club level. And I suppose, you know, the GEA is a community organisation, and I imagine what happens within sort of the GEA and those involved in playing the game is going to be reflective of what's happening in society, because they are just regular people doing regular things that we are on about, not drug taking, on about, you know, working and all the other stuff, studying and what have you. And if there's a lot of cocaine being used across society, which there clearly is, it's going to be reflected amongst the playing membership of the GEA. But the organisation, the association, concerned about that. Do you share those concerns? 086 60 25,000. This is a bizarre story. It was in the Irish Daily Mirror. Mary Lou McDonald was accused of being disrespectful in the Dáil for wearing a mesh top in a bizarre dressing down sent to the Cam Corla. The Sinn Féin leader wore the floral print net garment with a white T-shirt underneath and paired it with a black blazer on October 11th last year. And it's very incredibly modest. For those of you watching, I'll just show you the picture of it. I mean, it is incredibly modest there. I don't see how anyone could complain about that, but someone did. She also sported a pair of red-framed glasses with pendant earrings while blasting the government about the budget they announced the day beforehand. Now, I'm sure I will never sit here and read such a detailed description of what a man has worn in the Dáil, but that is the world we still live in. The deputies' ensemble seemed to be too much for one furious person who decided to write a complaint email to Cam Corla Sean O'Farrell demanding that a dress code be introduced. The email was not sent by a fellow Tudee, and had to be from a member of the public. The person declared they did not want to see Ms. MacDonald carrying on like that and be allowed to get away with it. The letter, which was obtained by the Irish Mirror through a Freedom of Information request, said, "I think Mary Lou MacDonald's top is a disgrace." All right, okay. Well, someone clearly with little time on their hands, I would say. The Tyrconnell Tribune, a complaint about a controversial T.G. Cahir documentary on the explosion in Creaslough in October 2022 has been partially upheld by the National Media Watchdog. Commissioner Mann said the documentary, which was broadcast on February 8th, 2023, 4 months after the incident in which 10 people died, had breached the Broadcasting Act 2009 by causing harm offence. The National Media Regulator said T.G. Cahir had not sufficiently demonstrated that it took due care in broadcasting material which could cause distress, particularly given it was shown just 4 months after the tragedy and before a Garda investigation into the explosion was completed. It also ruled T.G. Cahir could have avoided causing distress to bereaved families by consulting them in advance of its transmission. Now, the thing about it is as well, and this is so raw and so current, even the Commissioner Mann even the Commissioner Man response to the programme, you could argue, lacks sensitivity, in that it details in its response what was wrong with the documentary, and it outlines. And I found it actually. I did watch the documentary because I thought I had to if we were going to talk about it. I was opposed to it being broadcast in the first instance, but TG Cahir were clear that they thought it was the right thing to do. But even the response from Commissioner Mann, it's almost even, I would imagine, more difficult reading, because it writes down in words what was wrong with the documentary, and some time has passed, but that still is very difficult. And people reading that, and even reading the Commissioner Man findings, might not be clear who the individuals that they're talking about are, right? I don't want to sort of read it, because that in a way would add to that distress. But that's how sensitive this matter is. So even the Commissioner Man, arguably, I think, could have been a little bit more sensitive in their language in describing what was wrong with the TG Cahir programme. But anyway, as I say, they were told in advance that it was just not wise. They went ahead with it and were quite determined to go ahead with it. But anyway, okay, that's the Tyrconnell Tribune front page there. All right, all those papers available for you today. Now, just a reminder for you that you can watch this programme every day if that suits you in your life, if you're at home or what have you. We're available on your smart TV and your Fire Stick or Google TV through the YouTube app. You type in Highland Radio Ireland and we're streaming live. So you can watch us on your big screen TV. Many of you do, which is great if it suits you and your lifestyle. And also we're on YouTube and Facebook across your mobile devices. On Facebook, it's Highland Hub or Highland Radio News and Sport.
The 9 Til Noon Show with O'Hara's of Foxford. We take 18 hours to craft our new 18-hour fermented sourdough bread. Now's the perfect time to enjoy a slice.
Farmer Fury forces scap changes. For more in your Irish Farmer's Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
Find out how the department has backtracked on controversial suckler scheme. Acres payment delays hit 28,000 farmers. New €8 sheep scheme. Farmers to be charged for unsold calves and marts. Fresh blow to future of nitrates derogation. The latest from the Barn Estate court case. Plus, could the county council inspect your farm? We have all you need to know.
All inside the Irish Farmer's Journal. On sale now.
Are you building, rebuilding or renovating? What heat pumps or solar panels would suit your build? Come along and speak to the experts, Efficient Renewables on heat pumps and solar panels. Get advice on installation and grants available. Efficient Renewables will be at the Home Build Rebuild event at the Mount Errigal Hotel, Letterkenny from the 2nd to the 5th of February. See you there.
Hi, Paddy here at Shane Conley Cars in Donegal Town. Are you looking to upgrade your car? With Shane Conley Cars, you'll find makes and models for every budget. Great finance options, and we also accept trade-ins. Check out ShaneConleyCars.com or call in to us at Shane Conley Cars from Lonahur Road, Donegal Town.
Own your car from the start. At B&S Credit Union, you can do just that with a flexible and affordable car loan. Our friendly and experienced team will make the loan process easy and will be delighted to help you. Visit bnscu.ie or free phone 1-800-290-390. Loans are subject to approval, terms and conditions apply. B&S Credit Union Limited is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Do you currently have vacancies that need urgently filled? Have you tried various ways to find new staff but didn't succeed? Let Highland Radio help you source and fill your current vacancies in the most cost-effective way. Simply sign up to our new job spot and we will tell our listeners about your vacancies both on air and online. Every Monday, Wednesday and Friday during our primetime shows, we will broadcast the latest job opportunities across the Northwest and into counties Derry and Tyrone. All job listings will be available online at highlandradio.com. For more information, contact the advertising team on 07491 25322 or email advertising@highlandradio.com. Highland Radio, we're here for you.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the 9 Til Noon Show. We are joined on the programme now by Councillor Michael McClafferty, who is the Cearloch of Glentees Municipal District. Good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Hello, Michael. No, we don't have Michael there. Michael McClafferty is going to be joining us shortly. He says it's time there were laws for pedestrians to be mandated to wear high visibility vests. We're also joined on the programme by Ronan Gallagher, who is co-founder of the We Greenway initiative. Hopefully you're there, Ronan. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Greg.
Thanks for joining us. Okay. What is your view on the proposals, which we'll hear from the councillor in a moment, that high-vis should be made mandatory?
Well, it's an emotive issue for many people, for pedestrians, cyclists, and obviously for elected members around the country who believe that 2023 was a very bad year for road fatalities. We had 184 people killed, and that was a 19% increase on the previous year, and that was the highest total since 2014. So I understand when members look at ways of trying to make people safer on our roads, but trying to enforce or trying to make it mandatory for pedestrians and cyclists to wear high-vis is not the solution, and there's no evidence internationally to show that that would be the case.
Is it part of the solution, though, Ronan? Would you concede that?
Oh, that's a very good point. I don't wear high-vis myself on roads, whether I'm walking or whether I'm cycling. If someone wants to wear high-vis, that is a personal choice. But international, so the University of Bologna in Italy did a study over a period of 15 years where they analysed road collisions involving cyclists, and bang in the middle of the study in 2010, the Italian authorities mandated for high-vis. But the study showed that there was no conclusive evidence to indicate that wearing high-vis vests for cycling in this instance reduced road fatalities or road injuries.
Yeah, and
in some instances it actually increased.
But that's a study, okay. But as a driver, if I'm driving along the road, I see people wearing high-vis and I know they're there. And then at other times, unfortunately, and most drivers will have had to have done this at some point, you come on someone walking in the wrong direction or whatever in black clothing, and it's only for the grace of God sometimes you feel that you didn't mow them down. So surely... I'm not disputing the study because, I don't have the qualifications to do so, but surely you're less likely to hit someone you can see than someone you can't.
Well, you're less likely to hit someone if you're not going fast. So traffic law is uncompromising about the duties of a driver. So a person shall not drive a vehicle in a public place without due care and attention, and on top of that, without reasonable consideration for other persons using the place. That is the Road Traffic Act.
But Ronan, just in relation to that study, like that study that you quoted, can you say for certainty was it on rural and national roads? Was it rural driving, city driving? Was it areas with cycle lanes, without cycle lanes? Because I want to make sure that we're comparing like with like here, because my experience is driving on tiny, narrow roads.
I accept that. So the study, from what I understand, looked at, and this was in Italy, and it looked at all incidents involving cyclists and other road users in that period, and it didn't discriminate against what type of road that it was on. But that's, no study is without criticism. That's the first thing to say. But just going back to traffic law, to the Roads Act, it is very, very clear about the duty of a driver. So I drive on rural and urban roads, I cycle and I walk on rural and urban roads. And my experience is as valid as your experience 100%. Or as the member's experience who's called for high-vis to be mandatory. My experience is speed is the problem. Mm-hmm. That is the key aspect that we're discussing here. So people talking about high-vis from a cycling and pedestrians point of view, or from the We Greenway's point of view, that we would see that as a distraction from the need to stop distracted and inattentive driving. But that's where the major issue.
Yeah, but if a lorry or a tractor is on the roads I would drive on, which generally don't have hard shoulders. They're really quite narrow. If a car, a tractor or a motorbike is driving on that road with no lights on, okay, you can't expect me to assume responsibility for their poor driving. You know, you can't say, well, I must have done something wrong because I didn't see them and I smashed into them. It's generally accepted that they must have front-facing light, rear-facing lights. And I would apply that in this situation, because we're talking life and death, to pedestrians and cyclists as well, to give everyone a fair shout. I'm not a very fast driver, but sometimes it's really, really wet. Sometimes I'm being blinded by LED lights, and you could say, well, they shouldn't be legal either. But at the end of the day, surely it's better if I have a better chance of seeing someone sharing this space with me than not.
Yeah, and I won't dispute that. But just with regard to being able to see a cyclist, particularly at night, it is the law for a cyclist to have lights at lighting time. So I would never cycle in the dark without lights front and back. Apart from it not being safe to do that, I'm legally obliged to do that, and I would encourage people to do that. But really, I do feel, and if we look at the statistics for last year, and if we even look at, you talk about rural roads, so if you take Donegal in this context, there is over 6,270 kilometres of road in Donegal, and all but 1,200 kilometres are classified as local roads. So there is a lot of factors at play here. So there is the road network. It's the size of vehicles. It's how powerful vehicles are. I mean, the size of SUVs are probably too big for local roads in rural Ireland. Yet everyone wants to drive them now. So the size of these vehicles.
I'm not being emotive, Ronan, and I don't know what your family makeup is or anything. Okay, but if you had, say, two teenagers that were walking to a friend's house from your house to another house at night time, would you not prefer that they were wearing high vis than not?
I probably wouldn't. I don't have teenage children.
That's actually good, because to be honest with you, I'd prefer
you
don't, if you know what I mean, because I don't want it to sound like I'm just curious. If you did, which makes it easy for me to ask the question then, if you did have two teenage children, you're living on one of these roads with no hard shoulders, and they wanted to walk half a kilometre up to a friend's house in winter and it was dark, you wouldn't say to them, listen, stick on your high vis?
No, but I wouldn't say to them, don't put on high vis. It would be a personal choice. Okay. But what I would like to, it's a very good question, and it's a very good situation to think about. I would like to think that the people who are using that road that my teenage children are going to walk on, I would like to believe that the drivers, the humans behind the wheel of a car, will drive properly on that road, and will drive thinking we might encounter pedestrians.
I would not put my children's lives in their hands. I really, really wouldn't. But I'm not judging you. And as I say, I'm glad you don't have it, because it might sound like I'm trying to emotionally blackmail you, which I'm not. And I think you know that, Ronan. Stay with me, Ronan.
I accept it.
Okay, yeah, good. Ronan, stay there, because Councillor Michael McClafferty is with us now. I suppose just listening to Ronan there, Michael, and I suppose in the context of your calls, what have you got to say?
Well, Greg, to be quite honest with you about it, Ronan's entitled to his opinion how he sees life going forward. But I see life going forward at the minute in the utmost manner of safety for first of all, for school children going to school, adults, teenagers alike, whether they're walking from house to house or they're walking a narrow side road or whatever, or back roads around where I live myself, something same as yourself, Greg. I don't think it's unreasonable to ask people to wear a high-vis vest.
But you're not asking them, Michael. You're looking for it to be a criminal offence not to wear a high vest, which is a bit of a jump from asking.
Well, we're looking for it to go mandatory, Greg, as such, yes. No, maybe the criminal's asking a bit out of context, but anyway, we're looking for it to be enforced as such. That's what I'm looking for, Greg. That was the point behind my motion, as such, to be fair for the public out there. But as I say, in the interest of safety, like for example, 2023, 44 pedestrians killed. The year before that, 22, 43 killed. Like, now, whatever the reasons were behind it, we're not going to get. I don't know exactly. We're not going to get into that. But the point is, there were pedestrians out walking, so on, etc. There were a number of cycles as well, and through them, there's been three e-scooter deaths, I believe, as well, in 23. The e-scooter was actually adopted onto this the last year as well, as you're aware, for people wearing or using e-scooters to put on high-vis as well.
But the point I think here, Michael, is though, like, you know, and really want to be sensitive to anyone who's lost someone on the roads, but we have to have these conversations too. I think Roland's point, and he's well capable to make it himself, and he can come back in whenever he likes, is, you know, the motion, you could argue, presumes that it is the fault of the pedestrian. We don't know if all of the people were wearing high-vis or not, and it sort of doesn't talk to the blame maybe that the driver has to take.
Well, I did say, Greg, and I did say in the chamber that the driver, obviously, if somebody gets knocked down, somebody seriously injured or worse, and then it's alongside that, then the driver still have weight for the rest of their life. Like, it's not pointing the blame either way as such, Greg. That's not the intention of the motion. And if people are taking it that way, I apologise for that. But that is not the intention of the motion. The intention of the motion going forward is, when we see how this all pans out, is to be for people to be safe on the road. That's what we're looking for. Because as you said yourself there, you're going down a road wherever, a dark road, unlit road, no footpaths on the road, which many people in Donegal walk on through no fault of their own, but they have no choice to get from A to B. You're driving along in your car. If somebody's dressed in dark clothes, you do not have a possible hope of seeing them, depending on the condition of the night. And it may be through no fault of your own either. You're driving down a road, there's a car coming facing you, the opposite direction, close by you, with maybe bright lights on, LED lights, whatever. It's distracting. You know, you're focused on that. You may not necessarily see the person immediately alongside you.
Ronan, like I've found myself as well, do you know, that, you know, driving is not perfect, and you're a driver yourself, Ronan, as well, of course, as you've mentioned, but driving is not perfect. So I've found myself driving perfectly safe, or how I deem myself, or you know, and having to take, maybe there could be an animal or something like that there, having to take some evasive manoeuvre, whatever, maybe encroach a little bit over the white lines into the left. Again, in that scenario, I'm doing everything I should be doing, but I'd be able to make a more informed choice about my reaction to such an incident if I could see the pedestrian. And I think cyclists generally do have lights, but so maybe focus a little bit on pedestrians. If I could have the best chance of seeing that pedestrian, because your argument, Ronan, which I respect, and that's why we invited you on, your argument really is, it's almost as if everything else is perfect and it's just a pedestrian or a cyclist and it's just cars on the road. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and I mean, I'm sympathetic, you know, to individuals. I mean, I've spoken to people who have had close misses when they've been driving. You know, maybe they've come around a bend and a pedestrian is there, a high hedge, bends, you know, dark, and maybe they weren't wearing, you know, bright clothing. And it's, you know, this person has said, you know, my God, I mean, I nearly hit that person. But one of the things which you never hear members discussing, and although the member here has just alluded to it slightly, is driver behaviour. And again, I go back to this traffic law. It's uncompromising about the duties of a driver.
But in fairness, Ronan, like
driving a vehicle in a public place without due care and attention, that is against the law.
Yeah, we talk constantly, though. We do talk constantly. In fairness, Ronan, we do talk constantly about speed, seatbelt wearing, cars being safe to drive. We were the first county in Ireland, or the second county in Ireland, to host road safety road shows, which demonstrated to younger people the dangers of driving and the importance of safety. So I do, like, I don't know what it's like in other counties, but I do think 90% of the message coming out of Donegal is towards drivers, and now we're focusing a little bit on pedestrians. And just let me ask you, Ronan, have you not found yourself coming around a corner and there's someone in dark clothing and you've gone, WTF?
I've found myself in that situation when I've been driving in daytime and in the evening. Yeah. But I've been driving with reasonable care, so I'm not coming around the corner at 60, 70 kilometres an hour when I have no chance to react.
Okay.
and I've been able to pass,
Now,
and
one
I've been
other
able to
thing that
brake
you said
safely.
Yeah, one other thing you said, Ronan, is that you choose not to wear high-vis. So, is it fashion? Is it comfort? Like, why do you choose not to wear high-vis? Because it's a conscious choice you make.
It's a conscious choice, and it's not a choice of fashion. It's just a choice that I don't feel that that I shouldn't be in a situation that I need to swaddle myself in body armour or high-vis to make that short journey on a road because somebody else out there may take my life. And the big issue here, and I mean, I've cycled, I've walked, I don't live in Donegal anymore. I lived in Donegal for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
I now live in another county, another rural county with the same type of problems with people with no footpaths on rural roads. So this is not a problem that is just for Donegal. This is a nationwide issue. And what we have here is we have non-enforcement of the existing Roads Act because there are not enough Gardaí. That is the bottom line.
But you would know from your time, Ronan, you would know from your time in living in Donegal and travelling around Donegal, and it's not exclusive to Donegal, there will never be a time, and it is completely impossible for Gardaí to police the roads to eliminate speeding. So there has to be responsibility here. Stay where you are, and I'm going to come back to you, Michael, as well, because you triggered this most recent debate on this. But I want to introduce David too, who's a driving instructor. David, and you've heard both sides of it there from your perspective. You play a really vital role, actually, really, in sort of educating people. What's your view?
Yeah, well, I didn't catch it all, Greg, but I caught quite a bit of what your contributor Ronan said there, and I caught some of what the councillor said as well. Now, the first thing I would say, I was when I was talking to your producer there, and I have been a driving instructor for 12 years. Every single day that I go out with my pupils, I am doing my best to instill road safety in them. I talk to them about road safety constantly. I mention the terrible figures that we have seen last year, which was horrendous. The start of this year was just off the scale, as we all know. The one thing that I would like to, your contributor Ronan there, when he came on at the very start, he said, this is a very emotive issue. What is emotive about asking or advising someone to wear a yellow vest that might save their life? Mm-hmm. What is emotive about that? The only time that it's emotive, Greg, is when a pedestrian or a cyclist is knocked down on the road and they're killed.
But David, for the purpose of this conversation, though, and to be fair to Ronan and Michael, you're going to have to frame your opinion in the proposal that it would be legal, it would be mandatory to wear it. Listen, there's lots of things. You people say don't smoke, but you're allowed to smoke. What this is saying, what the proposal would be here, is that you would be obliged to. In other words, you'd be potentially liable under the Road Traffic Act or some act or other if you weren't wearing high-vis. Would you agree with that? Because that's the crux of what triggered Ronan to ring out. I'm sure Ronan doesn't care what advice is out there. Well, not doesn't care, but this is about making it compulsory.
Fair enough. The compulsory thing is, if that's the only way I contribute to it, but I would like to contribute to the conversation in a broader way from an instructor point of view. To make something and to say to everyone, okay, you must do that. Okay, maybe that. I don't know if it's a step too far, but that's maybe something that's very difficult to police and to enforce. But from an instructor point of view, I would just like to go back to some of the things that Ronan said. And you asked him the question, if he had two young people that were members of his family and they were going to walk along a dark road at night, would he advise them to put on a high-vis vest or to put something on that's visible to other drivers. And I mean, I find that kind of, I have 2 daughters. I have a granddaughter. I mean, I can't kind of take that on board there, that somebody wouldn't say, well, I think it would be advisable. You're going out on a dark road. Maybe it's wet. As you said earlier, there's no hard shoulder on the road. Can I listen, Greg, you drive, probably all of us that are contributing to this drive. After dark, again, it seems to be a little bit weighed heavily against the motorist here. But and we know that speed is a serious issue in this country. No one needs to tell us that. The majority of people in this country are driving too fast, especially in urban areas, and I would be the first to agree with that. But there's such a thing as a personal responsibility as well for a cyclist, for a runner, for a walker, for a jogger, whatever the case may be. There's such a thing as personal responsibility. That people must take personal responsibility. They can't assume, they have to look at it the other way around. They can't assume, okay, I'm going to maybe feed into what Ronan's saying now. They can't assume that everybody's coming around that bend at 30 kilometres per hour. They can't assume that, a motorist can't assume that every cyclist is going to have a rear light on if they decide not to wear a high-vis vest. It's personal responsibility as well.
Mm.
Okay, you understand
Ronan,
what I'm saying?
Yeah, of course, Ronan, come back in. Of course, Ronan, that's why we invited you on.
I mean, I'm not disputing that if someone wears bright clothing or high-vis, that it may help a driver to see them better in daytime or in
not
the evening.
Not a case of may, Ronan.
But what I'm disputing, but look, just let me finish, please. But spotting is one thing, but driving safely around that person is another thing. And that is where I go back to traffic law, and this is where the instructor should know this. The traffic law is very clear about the duties of the driver. The person shall not drive a vehicle in a public place without due care and attention, or without reasonable consideration for other persons using that place. That is very clear. The issue, and you alluded to it earlier, about speed and driving under the influence of drugs, whether it be cocaine or alcohol, they are the elephants in the room here.
Okay, so
our vehicles
Ronan,
are too
what
big,
is the
our roads are too narrow, and people drive too fast to react to other road users who should be out there.
In relation to the roads that you drove on up here, no hard shoulder, you know yourself, white line up the middle, but between two towns. We've talked an awful lot about. You've talked an awful lot about the responsibility of the driver, and that's grand. What is, in your mind, the responsibility of the pedestrian at night on these roads? It's very clear what you think the driver should be doing and the rules they should be following. I'm just asking you, what responsibility do you believe the pedestrian has?
Well, a pedestrian should walk with due care for all the road users. I don't deny that. I mean, if someone wants to walk down the middle of the road at night time, they're liable to meet a vehicle head on, and that's not a situation that I would like to see. But I'm not trying to duck the question. I'm just telling you that the law is clear. The responsibility is on the driver.
What responsibility, not through the law, but what responsibility as a member of society does that pedestrian have, do you think, to contribute to road safety?
That person should think about what they're going to do. If they feel it will make them safer wearing high-vis or wearing bright clothes or walking with a light at night time, then that person should do that. But I can tell you now, my experience is that's not the case.
Okay, Ronan, listen.
That's not the case.
Thank you very much for your time. Ronan Gallagher, who is co-founder of the We Greenway Initiative. Also, David, a driving instructor. And just to finish with you, Councillor Michael McClafferty, I mean, you proposed the motion. I presume it was passed. What would you like to see now, just in a moment or two, if that's okay?
I would like to see going forward, Greg, as the motion is put forward, for people to become mandatory if they're out along the road wearing high-vis vests / armbands, as it was touched on as well, or a good quality flash lamp, so that the motorist of the day can see them walking. There's no issue with seeing them, and hopefully it will leave things.
But do you believe it should be the law? Do you believe they should be obliged? They should be mandated. So if they don't, they can be stopped by the Gardaí, given a warning, potentially fined. Because, like my understanding, if I'm reading your motion correctly, is you want it to be mandatory for people on the roads, cyclists, pedestrians, to wear high visibility vests. Do you still stand by that?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, good stuff. All right, that's fine. Most people agree with you, so I'm not attacking you. Most people agree with you.
But Greg, no, that's fair enough, Greg, and I understand if your job to do as well, so you have mine to do, and there's a few gentlemen there as well from their respective points. But one thing I will say as well, you mentioned the Gardaí there. I've known myself in the last couple of years where Gardaí have stopped along the road, handed out an armband, handed out a high vis or whatever. Obviously, I would imagine had a quick 2-minute conversation with a person of the moment or the night, and carried on again. I know that for a fact that has happened, and I praise the Gardaí for doing that. But the whole thing going forward here, this is not about attacking anybody. This is about road safety. Road safety going forward. That's all I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And it's no different to I'm not a parent myself, but there's no different parents out there. You're a parent yourself, Greg. Parents teaching the children going up the ways of life, manners, good manners, everything else, rules of the road. It's the same thing. Okay. You wouldn't want your small child going up, running out onto a road. So I don't see why they would expect it.
By the way, if you're rushing to the Road Safety Authority website to order high visibility vests, it was pointed out by a Kerry councillor that they're through their RSA website, they're currently out of stock of all high vis items, which is really quite bizarre. Okay, councillor, thank you very much for your time. We might come back to this. Lots of people calling in, lots of you texting in, but we do have a break to take. Stay right where you are.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
The 9 Till Noon Show with O'Hara's of Foxford. Our new Baker 51 authentic sourdough celebrates 72 years of baking. Now's the perfect time to try it for yourself.
Save on carving and lamin essentials at Homeland. Gas Buddings debutter now €165. Milk Bar 10 compartment feeder now €179. Nutrius Ovigold and Bovigold mineral range, buy 2.5 litre, get 1 litre free. And there's 10% off the FlexiThin Classic waterproof jacket and trousers in store and online at homeland.ie. Nationwide delivery available. Offers available until March 31st.
Return, refund, recycled. Ireland's deposit return scheme is coming. From the 1st of February 2024, when you buy a drink in a bottle or can with the return logo, you'll pay a small deposit. Once you're refreshed, return your empty, undamaged bottle or can to any shop or supermarket and get your deposit back. The result? Less litter, less waste, and better recycling for Ireland. For more, visit return.ie.
Well, Grace, how are you today?
I'm good. I've just been down to the Made to Measure Fireplaces showroom in Creasla. They have an incredible selection of over 40 colours for kitchen worktops. And guess what? For a limited time, they're offering a 40% discount on any electric fire when you purchase a worktop there.
40%? That's an amazing deal, Grace.
Absolutely. And trust me, if the discount alone doesn't sway you, their huge selection of fireplaces, stoves, wood pellet burners, beams and stone cladding certainly will.
Contact Made to Measure Fireplaces Creasla on 074 91 38 365 on Facebook, Instagram and on mtmfireplaces.ie.
Are you building, rebuilding or simply improving your home? Come along to Donegal's premier gathering of home building professionals in the Northwest. Donegal New Build and Rebuild 2024 will take place in the Mount Erigal Hotel, Letterkenny from Friday 2nd until Sunday, February 5th. Admission is free to this 3-day event. This ad is sponsored by McDade's Bathroom and Tiles.
The 9 Till Noon Show with O'Hara's of Foxford, introducing our new Baker 51 authentic sourdough bread, a delicious new addition to the team.
Oh, Ciara, congratulations. Look at her tiny fingers. She's beautiful, just like her mammy.
Oh, thank you.
Have you got a name yet?
Well, we're thinking...
She's going to call her Brooklyn. Brooklyn, Massachusetts, Phoenix, Arizona.
Your vote is your voice, so if you don't speak up, someone else is deciding for you.
Baltimore, Kentucky, Murphy O'Neill.
Who's that?
Hospital porter. Just back from his American road trip.
Make sure you're registered to vote. Go to checktheregister.ie and be a voter, so that it's your voice that's heard. From Comisiún Táchán, Ireland's Independent Electoral Commission.
Oh, Brookie must juicy come to Auntie Hannah.
Is that the new Opal?
Yes, of course.
Does it really look that good?
Yes, of course.
Is it fun to drive?
Yes, of course.
Is it packed with smart tech?
Yes, of course.
Can I test drive it right now at Heron Auto Opal?
Yes, of course.
The new Opal Corsa, now available. Hybrid and electric coming soon. See heronopal.ie for details.
Easy Living Furniture's biggest ever winter sale ends this Sunday. This is your final chance to avail of these amazing discounts, as this whopper winter sale must end Sunday. Absolutely everything reduced across sofa, dining, bedroom, mattress and accessories. Winter sale must end Sunday at Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park.
Highland Radio weather updates brought to you by Grant. Building a new home? Choose Grant's A++ rated Airona air-to-water heat pump and Uflex underfloor heating. Visit grant.ie.
Today we'll start off sunny, then becoming cloudier through the afternoon with patchy light rain, drizzle and mist developing later. Temperatures steadily rising to 9 or 10 degrees by evening. Light winds increasing moderate to fresh southerly through the day. I cannot believe that Ronan does not agree with you, Greg. Surely high-vis vests help. It's a no-brainer, says Kevin in Ardra. Those that are driving on the road need to take care, and walkers need to take care too. I'm a careful driver and I've never had an accident yet. I've been close a few times with walkers in dark clothing. Not all drivers are good. Pedestrians need to be aware too of what they're doing to be safe on the roads. Another, I would agree with Councillor McClafferty 100%. The road at Derrybeg, the cars fly on it. People wear dark clothing and your life is ruined if you knock someone down. And I think really what Ronan is saying as well, and it's picked up here in this text, is that cars are flying on it, and that we need to put more emphasis or further emphasis on drivers and their role in all of this. That's I think to paraphrase somewhat what he's saying there. You would need a third lane for pedestrians on the road. If a car is reversing, pedestrians should stand back and not be another obstruction. Pedestrians should walk on footpaths. There needs to be rules for pedestrians. Pedestrians, says this listener, think they rule the road. Caller says that the argument of speed is skewed in that they are making cars that can do high speeds when the high speed limit in Ireland is 120 kilometres per hour. And that's often been the case, hasn't it? Couldn't agree more with Michael. Good to see someone with a bit of sense. They should get a good fine if they don't have high-vis jackets on. Ronan is making no sense, according to this listener. With all due respect to both the walker and the driver, I feel it is irresponsible of walkers to walk on the main road between Glenties and Ardra in the dark. Even wearing the high-vis vest, it is difficult to see the walker on a wet night. Almost impossible. There is a track in Glenties and lots of walk areas within the town boundary that include footpaths. Another, Greg, ask him if you hit a pedestrian cyclist at 30 kilometres per hour, which isn't speeding. Is he trying to say that speed to hit someone is okay? Tell him to cop on. And typical cyclists think they own the road. But that being said, we appreciate Ronan coming on and expressing his views. Many people might share them, you see, but because it might be seen as a controversial view, not everyone will express it. It would be interesting to know how many pedestrians involved in collisions were not wearing high-vis clothing, especially at dusk or when it's dark, and it's information we can try and get together. What planet is Ronan on? Saying he doesn't wear high-vis. How irresponsible. We see it every evening, people walking in dark clothes. It's so dangerous. And last one before we take a break for the news. Everyone should be wearing high-vis vests when out walking, etc., and should be fined if they aren't. The majority would seem to be of that view. Keep your calls and comments coming in on that. After 10 o'clock, we're going to be talking about the new deposit return scheme, which is live and active now. Is this something that you are happy with or unhappy with? You know, maybe you are a very thorough recycler and you think this is a bit of an insult that now you have to pile your plastic into a car and drive to a shop. Maybe you think it's the best thing since they started slicing bread. Really interested to listen to people in the business industry. Have you a view on it? Does this add to your business? Does it distract from it? Let us know. Views on all of those issues on 08660 25,000.
The 9 Till Noon Show with O'Hara's of Foxford, introducing our new 18-hour fermented sourdough bread. A winner with the whole family.
If your business exports goods to or through Great Britain, you will be affected by new UK government import controls, taking effect at the end of January 2024. Now is the time to make sure that everyone in your supply chain understands what they have to do. Don't leave it too late. Make sure your business is ready. For more information and support, visit gov.ie/Brexit. Brought to you by the Government of Ireland.
Welcome to Boots. How can we help?
Is it normal that it stings when I
want to support my immune system?
With a fungal nail infection? And why can't I maintain my
earwax build-up and my
retreating hairline? Maybe my blood pressure's
light, regular or super plus?
Whatever your question, ask a pharmacist first and get advice without needing an appointment. Boots, with you for life. See boots.ie for details.
Forward Emphasis International are actively recruiting for customer service advisors with both in-office and hybrid opportunities available in our Mellonhead and Buncrana locations. Fully funded insurance and financial services qualifications delivering attractive career path opportunities are available. Please visit their website www.forwardemphasis.ie and apply via their careers page.
Join the Highland Radio Outside broadcast team this Friday from 12 till 2:30 p.m. for a live broadcast from the Mount Errigal Hotel, Letterkenny, for the start of the 3-day Donegal New Build and Rebuild Home Show. We will be speaking to some of the exhibitors and organisers to preview this event. Admission is free to the show.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock. Donald Kavanagh at the news desk. The chair of Donegal County Council's Defective Concrete Blocks Committee says issues with the council's online portal have been resolved and it will be online and functioning properly within days. Councillor Martin McDermott was responding to comments from the Milford and District Resource Centre manager Declan Meehan, who called on the council to get its act together after reports that people could not upload invoices onto the portal. Mr Meehan, who plans to contest the forthcoming local elections, questioned whether builders and others would engage with the scheme in terms of staged payments if the portal wasn't functioning. However, Councillor McDermott says a resolution is now imminent.
Is something that had to be rewrote when the new scheme came in. That was in place a number of weeks back, but the system actually didn't work. There was an issue with it. It had to go back to IT to be relooked at. Now the system is back with the council, ready to go. Within the next couple of days, that system will be up and running, and that should make life a lot easier for both the homeowner and the professional.
The deal done with the DUP by the UK government to get the Northern Executive and Assembly running again will go before the UK House of Commons today, with suggestions the Assembly could meet within days. Meanwhile, bus and train services aren't running across the north once again today as workers at Translink stage another work stoppage over pay. With the return of Stormont imminent, workers are being asked to defer future strikes because money will be available for increased public sector pay as a result of the deal. The Northern Secretary Chris Heaton-Harris has confirmed there will be more money on the table for public services.
This will release over £3 billion in funding to support Northern Ireland's public services and provide a solid foundation for the Executive to deliver better outcomes in the day-to-day lives of the people of Northern Ireland.
Officers from the PSNI's International Policing Unit have arrested a man in Derry in relation to a fatal road collision in the Republic in 2022. The 27-year-old is wanted to stand trial for alleged dangerous driving causing death in County Louth in July of that year. He was detained under an international warrant by officers from the Waterside neighbouring policing team in Derry last evening. He'll be brought before an extradition court in Belfast later. Donegal County Council and Fáilte Ireland are discussing a proposal that they pilot a bespoke festival and events development programme that will target a number of festivals and events with a 3-year funding commitment of €4,000 per year, accompanied by a series of supports. Details emerged this week as members passed a motion from Councillor Barry Sweeney that the current model be amended. At present, applications for funding are invited in January or February each year, with decisions announced in March. However, because any money granted has to be spent by the end of the year, Councillor Sweeney says that effectively precludes festivals in the first 2 months from the scheme.
It excludes some of the festivals that would be happening earlier in the year, and as you know now, we've got the bank holiday weekend coming up. There's some great festivals and events happening around the county, like for example Féile na Man in Bundoran is one that there's a lot of celebration of St. Bridget and of women of the area, and it's difficult for them to plan and fund their festivals without this support. It's not a massive fund, but it is very helpful to a lot of these small festivals.
Motorists in Letterkenny are being warned a number of roadworks are to take place over the next 7 days to facilitate the installation and replacement of ramps. Traffic management plans will be in place for single line traffic where possible. Traffic may be diverted at times. Works are being carried out at Leck Road, Drummond Road and Orchard Grove. All those works are weather permitting. And beards, fake tan and nail polish are now allowed for members of the Defence Forces. New rules come into force today as part of efforts to modernise the force and attract more young people to join up. With more, here's Emma Tyrrell.
More relaxed grooming rules for members of the Defence Forces will allow female members to have their hair done in one of 6 different approved styles. That's instead of the current short or in a bun with the net options. But men will be more limited with mullets and mohawks, non-runners. But men can look for permission to grow a beard that will be monitored and can't be more than 13 millimetres long. Female members can also now wear nail varnish, but they'll only be allowed to pick from 5 shades, while fake tan is allowed, but in moderation.
After a sunny start, it will become cloudier this afternoon with patchy light rain, drizzle and mist developing. Temperatures steadily rising to 9 or 10 degrees Celsius by evening, with light winds increasing moderate to fresh southerlies through the day. Patches of light rain, drizzle and mist tonight. Overnight temperatures will stay high between 10 and 11 degrees Celsius with moderate to fresh and gusty southwest winds, strong at times near the coast. Tomorrow, mostly dull with patchy rain, drizzle and mist. Toward tomorrow evening, rain will become more persistent. Top temperatures on Friday, 10 to 12 degrees Celsius in moderate to fresh southwest winds. That's Highland Radio News. We're back with news headlines again at 11. Check all of today's news on our website, highlandradio.com. For now, from the news team, good morning. The obituary notices for this Thursday morning, the 1st of February. The death has taken place of Jim Curran, Faughur, Portnabla, Dunfanaghy. His remains will repose at his late residence from 3 o'clock this afternoon. Funeral Mass in Holy Cross Church, Dunfanaghy, on Saturday afternoon at 3, with burial afterwards in the adjoining graveyard. The Mass can be viewed live on mcn.live. Family time, please, from 10 p.m. to 11 a.m. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Patient Comfort Fund, Letterkenny University Hospital, care of any family member or James Harkin, Funeral Director. The death has taken place of Eddie Mullen, 22 Lambton Court, Strabane, reposing at his son Terry's home at 1 Ballygrove, Strabane, from 12 noon today. Funeral from there on Saturday at 10 to noon for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Melmount at 12:30. Interment afterwards in Strabane Cemetery. Donations in lieu of flowers, please, to the Foyle Hospice, care of Quigley Funeral Directors. Family time, please, from 11 p.m. to 11 a.m. The Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the parish webcam. The death has occurred of Bridget McLaughlin, neighbour, Old Post Office, Linsford, and 6 Cranaview, Cockhill Road, Buncrana. Bridget will repose at McLaughlin's funeral home, Lower Main Street, Buncrana, from 3 o'clock until 7 o'clock today. Removal this evening at 7:15 to arrive at Star of the Sea Church, Desertegny, for 7:30 for Mass in honour of St Bridget at 8 o'clock. Funeral Mass will be celebrated there at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, with burial afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to Buncrana Community Hospital Patients Comfort Fund, care of any family member. The death has occurred of John McFadden, Ballybose, Falcara. Remains reposing at Sweeney Funeral Home, Ballybose, Falcara, from 4 5:30 to 6:30 this evening, with removal to St Finian's Church, Falcarra, to repose overnight. Funeral Mass on tomorrow Friday at 11, with burial in the adjoining cemetery. The funeral mass can be viewed live on mcn.live or on Sweeney Funeral Director's Facebook page. The death has taken place of James Jim Patrick Gallagher, Follard Calhame, Letterkenny, originally of Core Point, Lettermecca Ward. Reposing at Eternal Light Chapel of Rest, Mountain Top, Letterkenny, from 2:30 to 4:30 this afternoon, with removal to St Eunan's Cathedral, Letterkenny, for reception prayers at 5 o'clock. Reposing overnight for 11 o'clock Requiem Mass tomorrow Friday morning, which can be viewed live on churchservices.ie, followed by burial in Kilbridge Cemetery, Lettermecca Ward. Family flowers only, please. Donations, if desired, to the Emergency Services, Letterkenny, care of Pascal Blake, Funeral Director. The death has taken place of Madge McMonigal, née McFadden, Upper Derry Reel, Falcarra. Her remains are reposing at her late residence. Funeral Mass in Holy Cross Church, Dunfanaghy, tomorrow morning at 11, with burial afterwards in the adjoining graveyard. Mass can be viewed on mcnmedia.tv. Family time, please, from 10 p.m. to 11 a.m. and on the morning of the funeral. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu, if desired, to Letterkenny University Hospital, care of any family member or James Harkin, Funeral Director. The death has taken place of Aisling Little, née McShane, Shancregan Stranoler, formerly of Kilcar. Her remains are reposing at her late residence, with rosary tonight at 9. Funeral from there tomorrow morning at 10:15 for 11 o'clock funeral mass in the Church of Mary Immaculate Stranoler, with burial afterwards in Drumbo Cemetery. Family time, please, from 10 o'clock tonight and before the funeral tomorrow. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu to Breast Care Centre Northwest, care of any family member or Terence McClintock, Funeral Director. The funeral mass can be viewed live on churchservices.tv. And the death has taken place of Mary Doherty, née Padden, Upper Dromore, Letterkenny. Mary's remains will repose at her late residence today from 2 o'clock until 10 o'clock. Celebration of Mary's life and prayers will take place at the family home at 11:30 tomorrow morning, followed by interment in Conwell Cemetery, Letterkenny. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu, if desired, to the palliative care team, Donegal Hospice, care of any family member. For family information and more details regarding wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Prices keep dropping in-store at Aldi, with loads of your favourites getting the price drop treatment. Like high-protein mousse 200 grams was $1.75, now $1.49. Melt-in-the-middle fish cakes 2-pack was $3.49, now $2.99. And Irish lean beef burgers 2-pack was $2.89, now $2.49. Ooh, lean burger, lean price. Follow the path to lower prices. Go all Aldi. Prices checked 8th of the 1st, 24. Details aldi.ie/save.
And now, IMRO's 2023 Best Local or Regional News Programme, The Voice of the Northwest, the 9 Til Noon Show, with Greg Hughes.
It's great to have you back after the break there. Good to have you. If you've just joined us, it is the 9 Til Noon Show. A busy first hour. Lots of you messaging in on whether or not wearing high-vis should be mandatory. The majority at this moment, if this were a democracy that we live in, are in favour. They say aye to high-vis being compulsory for cyclists and pedestrians. We're going to get to some of those comments and maybe a few calls a little later on. Very shortly too, we're going to be talking about this new deposit return scheme. Really interested in the public's views on this. What do you think about it? Are you excited? Are you nonplussed? Also, if you're a business owner, they're quite expensive, these machines. There is a grant, but it doesn't cover all the costs, and maybe you might see yourself as a competitive disadvantage. I don't know. I don't want to put words or thoughts into anyone's mind. I'm not capable of it either. But we just want your views. 086 60 25,000 or call 074 91 25,000. All that to come, but without further ado, it's Jackpot Day.
It's time for Vision Ireland Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Thursday, the 1st of February, Jackpot Day. You're playing for the jackpot prize of €8,000 on the pink sheet. The reference number is S4. It's game number 5. The jackpot number is 32. This number can come out in any position from the next 10 numbers drawn. And now, here are your daily numbers. 6, 54, 76, 32, 11, 46, 74, 59, 72, and finally 17. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book, and we'll call you back the next working day. Get all your Vision Ireland bingo information at highlandradio.com.
It's the Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring half-price sale. Get up to 50% off all tiles. Wood flooring, bathware, cladding, everything's reduced. Tiles from only $8.99 per square yard and wood flooring from only $11.99 per square yard. Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring half-price January sale extended until Bank Holiday Monday.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of a butcher cutting through his costs. A tech company developing their sustainability plan. And a brewery getting production flowing nicely. It's all in a day's work for small businesses all across Ireland. So whatever your business, your local enterprise office is here to help you save time, money and energy. To see how, visit allinadayswork.ie. Brought to you by your local enterprise office and supported by Enterprise Ireland and the local authorities, an initiative of the Government of Ireland.
Oreo the robot is not just helping with service at Kelly's Diner, he's also adding a little twist to birthdays there. If you're celebrating at Kelly's, Oreo can even be persuaded to sing a very special happy birthday. It's a great treat for small kids and plenty of big kids too. For the chance to see and hear Oreo the robot in action, visit Kelly's award-winning diner today at Mountaintop Letterkenny. First Communion and Confirmation catering also now available.
The 9 Til Noon Show with O'Hara's of Foxford, introducing our new 18-hour fermented white bloomer, scoring the bronze at Blasnahiran.
Now, the Green Minister of State with responsibility for communications and the circular economy, Oisín Smith, joins us now. Good morning, Minister. Thank you for your time.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on your show.
And it's good to get to talk to you as we see the introduction and implementation of the deposit return scheme. What's the aim of this scheme?
The aim is to clean up the landscape. I've had some great holidays in Donegal. I went up a year ago and went to the Irish College, the Other Squale in Glencullen, and I've been in Inishowen. And what I noticed was unbelievably beautiful landscape, particularly in good weather. But also a lot of cans and bottles in the road verges and beside the lake shores and along the coast. And you'd see that in every county in Ireland. So the aim of this scheme is to reduce the number of cans and bottles that end up in our landscape, ruining our landscape.
And do you think that will be achieved? Will this do that?
I really think it will. So I think that what we're doing is from this day onwards, you're going to see that cans and bottles in your local shop will have a little logo on the side with the return logo on it. That means that there's a deposit on the bottle, 15 cents for a small one, 25 cents for a large one. And when you bring them back, you get the money back. And what we see in all the other countries around the world, and 40 countries have done this, is that you get return rates of about 90%. So we're going to see far, far fewer bottles and cans lying around in our fields, in our landscape. And that's going to be better for everything. It's like we've a right to live in the clean environment, and it's also good for tourism.
I get that, Minister, but you know, say there's lots of people listening to this programme that are very good about recycling. You know, they've got their separate coloured bins, they wash out their stuff, they put it in their bottles, that whatever. Now, they would be expected to segregate their cans and bottles from that waste, get into their probably ice-engined vehicle and drive to their local shop to dispose of them. Where's the reward for those people that are being penalised and having potentially, if they don't have a reason to go to the shop, further damage the environment to fulfil the needs of this scheme?
You're right that most people are good about it. About 60% of people are doing the right thing and putting their bottle or can into a green bin. But then there's another 40%, and a lot of this is people who are drinking drinks on the go, who are in their car. who are just throwing them on the ground.
But
so,
is someone
really, in order to reach those people who are not doing it,
so we're punishing. But people will feel we're punishing everyone for the people. I just can't see, and I hope I'm wrong, Minister. And it is. We have to wait and see if someone will drive along our beautiful county that you've seen with your own eyes, roll down the window and chuck a plastic bottle or a can out. I can't see them maintaining the integrity of that bottle and can, heading to their local shop and sticking it in a machine for a voucher refund. You know what I mean? Like, how is that? Are those people really going to be monitored by this refund scheme? Oh, not monitored, motivated. Sorry.
They will be motivated. And if it works in every other country, I don't think there's something different about Irish people that we can't do this. I think it's something we can do together. And I think we're all going to get the benefit from it. And I think that some of your older listeners, I mean, just as old as me, will remember in the 70s and 80s that we had a scheme like this before for glass bottles. So, you know,
you left them on your doorstep, though.
Came in a glass bottle.
Yeah, you left them on the doorstep for your milkman.
For milk bottles, you left them on the doorstep, and for lemonade bottles, you brought them back to the shop and you got money back for them, or you could leave them back in the pub for beer bottles. So then we switched, when the manufacturers switched from glass bottles for lemonade to plastic. They were so cheap, they didn't bother having a deposit return scheme. And now we've got, unbelievably, 1 billion plastic bottles and 1 billion metal cans being produced every year. And they're just, so many of them are ending up on the ground that we need to do something to fix it. Okay. So there really will be a benefit for everybody. And I know that for some, it is a change. It is a big change in the way that you handle your bins. I know that it's different. But I think that we can do this together.
All right, but I think this perhaps for the majority of the country might work. Border counties, for an example, a lot of the cans and bottles that you've seen on the side of the road, and I'm not saying they were dumped by people from Northern Ireland, but certainly came out from Northern Ireland. We aren't able to recycle a can of Coke we bought in Strabane in Lifford, are we? I mean, where is the sense in that? Again, this feels like it's a rule that benefits really, you know, the majority of Ireland, but doesn't necessarily consider the border regions.
Yeah, the border region is going to be a challenge, and I know that in the UK they want to bring in their own deposit return scheme. And I've got onto the minister in Westminster to say that I want to coordinate with her. I want to have an all-island scheme that works for everybody. And we haven't had a minister in Northern Ireland. They haven't got an executive, but they're going to get one soon. And I'm going to be very keen to coordinate with them and make sure that we have a scheme that works on both sides of the border. I'm also concerned to make sure that there isn't smuggling. So we've done a lot of work to make sure that people aren't bringing bottles over and and adjusting them or putting on new barcodes to try to get money back. So that's a concern as well. But you're absolutely right. We need to have something that works everywhere in Ireland, and particularly in border counties.
Okay. What percentage of the bottles and cans returned will be recycled?
So at the moment, about 60% of the bottles are plastic bottles are being recycled.
In Ireland?
We want to get that up.
Are they being recycled in Ireland?
No, but they're segregated and they're shipped abroad for recycling. So are they
recycled? But Minister, are they being recycled abroad? You can't say that.
Oh yeah, they are. No, really? I mean absolutely. So, for example, I've been to Shabra Plastic in Monaghan. I've seen them melt down the plastic bottles, turn them into pellets, and then turn them into bin bags. So I've seen the whole process.
And what about cans? What percentage of the cans will be recycled?
So ultimately, I'm expecting that we're going to reach 90% for both cans and bottles. So, and I think it will take us about 2 years to get to that point.
None of them will be burned. None of these bottles will be burnt anyway. Well, they certainly won't be incinerated. None of them.
Well, in fact, what happens to them is they're all going to be taken to Limerick polymer.
Yeah.
And because we're going to have such a large quantity for the first time of very clean and segregated plastic bottles and cans, it'll actually create the market for having a full recycling centre in Ireland. Okay. So I expect we're going to be able to set up a full a place where bottles can be melted down, turned into new bottles without having to ship them abroad. Because obviously it doesn't make sense to be shipping things out of the country. And in fact, a lot of waste is shipped over the border. There's a lot more recycling, for example, of food done north of the border than there is south of the border. And a lot of that doesn't make sense. You want to recycle things as close to the source where they're produced.
Finally, what are you going to do for small businesses? They feel disenfranchised by this. They can't afford the machines. They're at a competitive disadvantage. What are you going to do for small businesses?
Well, in fact, a lot of small businesses around the country have taken them up. I know that there are 31 shops in Donegal where you can bring them back. And they're not just the Lidl and the Aldi and so on. They're also Gallagher's and Kavanagh's, McLafferty's, Eurospar and Goethe Herk, the Centras and Raffo and Donegal and Moville. So what we've done is we've provided a grant for the reverse vending machines, for the machines that take back the bottles. So that it'll cover up to half of the cost of putting that in. And also there's a little bit of money paid for each can or bottle that is handled. There's a handling fee for the shopkeeper for each can and bottle that they manage to take in. So what we've seen in other countries is that at first all the big shops go for it, and then after that there's a second wave of smaller shops saying we need to do this.
Yeah,
and
but they're already in a really difficult trading environment here. They're already trying to compete with people in border areas, going across the border and shopping for their cans and their bottles, and they're competing with your Lidls and your Aldis and what have you as well, who had them in at the get-go, and they can't actually. You've mentioned there's many more shops than that in this county, you know yourself. They simply are robbing Peter to pay Paul to try and stay competitive, to pay the 30,000 for one of these machines. I mean, can you do more for them?
In fact, I've been into Costcutter this morning to see how they're getting on near to where I live. And what the shopkeeper has said to me is, this pays for itself. It brings footfall into his shop. He gets a grant towards the cost of the machine. He gets a handling fee for each bottle or can that comes in. And he wants to have that. So it's not an incentive to people to go to a big shop instead. And also there's a finance arrangement so the shopkeepers can pay for it as the machine goes along. But he expects that he's going to be able to pay for his machine in the first 3 years. And after that, he'll be making a profit out of it. So I think it's something that small shops will want to do. I think more of them will come on board as the scheme goes on. There are grants, there is help. If you go to return.ie, there's a whole part of the website that will show you for retailers how to get on board with the scheme. There's also a map on that website, return.ie, and that will show your listeners where's the nearest place they can bring back their cans and bottles.
That's where the competitive disadvantage. That's where the competitive disadvantage is here, where you are promoting the places that have it, and those that can't afford these machines are being forced to do so, even though they can't afford it. But anyway, you answered that question. And you talked about the font, but I don't want to delay you any further. I imagine there's quite a lot of demands to speak to you this morning, so thank you for your time right now. That's Oisin Smith-Green, Minister of State with responsibility for communications and the circular economy. But let us get the views of people out there in business and see what their reaction to this is. We'll start with Kieran McKenna, owner of McKenna's Laundus in Buncrana and, of course, Quigley's Point as well. Good morning to you, Kieran. Thank you very much for your time.
Hey, good morning, Greg. Good morning.
Right, you heard the Minister there. I suppose just really from your perspective as a business person, what's your reaction to this scheme and its introduction?
Well, I would have liked if the Minister had stayed on the call, because, like other ministers, I feel that most of them are delusional as to how a small business operates. He talked about Shabra Plastics in Monaghan, which is only a small factory on the side of the road. Your listeners will see it when they're travelling between on the Tessablaney bypass. And if he's saying that factory is currently recycling 60% of the plastic and cans in this country at the minute, he's definitely off the scale. You're quite right, Greg. We operate here in the Inishowen Peninsula, and while different border areas is different, the Inishowen Peninsula is unique that people who live in Inishowen, a lot of them work in dairy, and they will bring out, say, a plastic bottle, maybe that they drank at work or whatever else, and that product is not allowed to be returned. So many visitors that come to Inishowen throughout the summer who are greatly welcomed, they're an important part of our economy. Again, the product that they will bring out will not be able to be recycled. We are a small business. He quite right said there's a grant, but the grant will nowhere near, pay for the cost of the machine. There's big pressure then from bigger retailing companies to follow suit and put in a machine. So typically for our two stores, if I was to put in the machine and infrastructure that was needed with it, it would cost me over €30,000. For the product that you talked about that's not able to be recycled, I have to provide a bin, and then I have to recycle that product at my own cost.
Wow.
So
yeah, okay.
And so every item that would be taken out, say from and any listeners here from Northern Ireland that come to Inishowen, they're more than welcome. and we wouldn't discourage them from using the facility or using a bin outside our store. But if say, for instance, if somebody brings a bottle back that can be rightfully recycled, and the machine doesn't accept it, that goes into the bin also.
So if I bring, say for instance,
there's so much cost attached to this.
But Kieran, say I do a weekly shop.
Ministers are. Yeah,
I was just going to ask you. Say I do a weekly shop in the north, which I don't, and I buy 6 packs of cans or a large family, and I fill a black bag full of those. If I walk into your shop with a big black bag full of plastic and cans, you're obliged to take them, are you, under on the face of this law?
Well, I could stand to be corrected, but if you had somebody with a small carrier bag, now a big black bag would be a lot, but say on a small carrier bag, that person's not going to bring them home, Greg. You see it at bottle banks, yourself, that whatever doesn't go into the bottle bank, they just leave in a box. I'm not saying that 99% of the people that who recycle would be very responsible, but them products, if it doesn't go into the machine, they've went to the effort of separating them and everything else. They're not for taking them home. They will be either leaving them in the bin that we have to provide, or maybe they will go across the road or go to the nearest recycling point where they can put them in. But it's an area that there's still, the Minister talks about that he will be writing to whenever we get a government, established in Northern Ireland. But there's so many other things, that are against small businesses. We're after coming out of an energy crisis. We have minimum wage. You see so many small restaurants throughout the country that are closing, and this is just another scheme that was put. The cart was put before the horse. You heard the Minister say we don't even as a country, we don't have a facility in Ireland to recycle all this plastic in cans. So surely, somebody in his position should have looked to developing a plant that could take it all first, and then we get into it. And then you'd have small retailers like myself who would be fully engaged and fully behind, that we can see an end product here.
They call that the just transition, and it's another thing where the cart seems to have been before the horse here.
Yeah. Me and you could call it something else, but
we're taking off air.
Yeah.
Okay, listen, Kieran.
It's typical of a minister to come on and say how great the whole thing will be. I have looked for an exemption for the machine just because our store is within the square footage that you're allowed. And in 6 months' time, if I feel that this is definitely the way to go, I will have no problem implementing it to machines. But at the moment, like so many small businesses, we can't afford to do it, and we're being pressured by bigger groups, retailing groups that there are in the country.
Well, listen, come here. You and your business plays an incredibly important role in having the service available to people in Buncrana and Quigley's Point, but through the employment and spending on produce from the local area. So hopefully no one is discouraged from shopping local through this scheme, because without businesses like yours, communities start to crumble. Kieran, thank you very much for your time. I do appreciate it. Johnny McGuinness has 2 hats on as a business person and also as a local elected representative. Good morning to you, Councillor.
Good morning, Greg. Good morning to your listeners. Thank you.
Again, I think that the elephant, not the elephant in the room, but the obvious situation here is 1A, this is not really a border scheme because our lives are a little bit different up here. But B2, it's not really good for the small business person, it seems.
Well, at this moment in time, Greg, the small businesses, as Kieran has eloquently put it before, we're under extreme pressure just to remain open when we're competing against the larger entities that are operating within the county. And the small Irish business that rural Ireland is made up with and which provides most of the employment in rural Ireland, we are under threat. We've had, as Kieran alluded to, we've had an energy crisis where we've been paying between 4 and 5 times the amount for electricity. We've had multiple wage increases, which are welcome, but obviously all of these inputs going up means that the viability of the small business is getting tighter and tougher every year. Now, this scheme on the whole, I commend the efforts of the Green Party for trying to increase the level of recycling that takes place within the country. But according to a Panda Ireland study last year, we're already over 70% recycling of our plastic bottles. So his target is 90%. To close that gap of 20%, I think there's a number of different ways that this could have been done in a more sensible manner. But turning the small local shop into a waste collection agency is not the way forward. And it's already, as I said, we're already under pressure, and this could be the straw that breaks the camel's back.
And with more supports, I think, for smaller businesses so that the playing field was level. And I would say, again, I have a bee in my bonnet about rules that are good for the country as a whole, but if you start looking at border counties, not so good for businesses that are already trying to compete. It just is it feels a little bit ill thought through. You know, this is where we're going to be, perhaps. You know, people will be glad to get rid of this stuff, and if they can get a few quid, fine. But why didn't we do it correctly and take consideration of the border, into consideration the small businesses and offer them more support? Hey, you know, if there is a clawback on this, maybe the government could have front-loaded the cost for the small businesses and took the clawback there, or used it as some sort of a compensation for the challenges that you've talked of, i.e., you know, higher fuel prices, electricity prices and what have you. I'm just saying, with a bit of thinking, this could have actually got over the line with very little controversy, Johnny.
Without a doubt, Greg, I couldn't agree more. If they had come and spoken to the small retailers and not just dealt with the large entities, then we could have steered them the right way. But I don't think it's our responsibility to deliver this scheme. You talked about the grant support. The maximum grant support that you can receive from the government is €3,000 towards the purchase of the smallest machine that you can buy, Greg, is €12,000. So at a rate of 2.2 cents per unit returned, a small retailer like ourselves, we would have to handle 545,455 bottles before we could break even. And I mean, anyone can tell that over 500,000 bottles stacked together, that's an awful lot of green bin bags that we'll have to pay to bag them. And as Kieran alluded to, what about the percentage of non-returnables that we'll have to then dispose of ourselves? Yeah. And worse then again, we're going to have to build a facility to lock up your waste. I mean, the whole thing's preposterous.
And there's those, and you know, when you think about it, there's different sized cans that don't work. The little bottles that you give to children going to school don't count. There's an awful lot in here. And that's also too scrutinising whether something's dirty or not. You know, the cap has to be on it, I believe. You know, the can, I think, you know, it can't be dented.
I think the cap doesn't have to be on it, Greg.
Well, the can certainly can't be dented. It can't be squashed. It can't be squashed. All right,
yeah,
okay.
Well, if the cap's on, I suppose the bottle will stay too. I could speak one more point, Greg,
of course,
just in relation to this, because it wasn't touched upon. I've done some research into this now. This type of scheme is operating in the rest of Europe, different countries in Europe, and they all use different logos. But now they've clearly stated that no importation of products without the logo can take place now for the Irish market. Now that goes against the European competition laws for free trade. And listen, if we're trying to get to 90% recyclable by 2030, there's an awful better way to do it. But flagrantly going against free trade legislation doesn't make sense. And as you said, we're on the periphery of the UK here at present until we eventually have a United Ireland. So we're already going to have a northern shopper coming down here to the beaches, beautiful scenic beaches of Inishowen, and those containers and that rubbish isn't going back up the road. And when they pull into my store to try and use the machine, if we go and buy a machine at present, just like here, we're going to hold back for a week or two. I've put in for the dispensation because of the size of the shop, but the chances are that bag of rubbish, when they're told that they can't return it, it's just going to be dropped at your front door. We have a small little bin at the front door, and during the summer months, I empty that bin every day of the week because the amount of rubbish that's just tossed in there from people visiting the beach. So we're a long ways off a proper solution to this, and even the brown bins initiative that's coming into rural Ireland as well. You touched on it yourself. Diesel lorries driving around the country picking up food waste. It's disconnected thinking. It's not joined up. They haven't met or spoken to small retailers. And as you said yourself, it's the cart before the horse.
Yeah, and it's just about it feeling fair. And you know yourself, Johnny, too, on a lot of other these issues, I think we all want a planet that is fit for our children and our grandchildren and their children. But it's just there's so many contradictions in the messaging and things that don't make sense. And therein lies the problem. People's goodwill almost goes wasted. Listen, thanks for your views on that. That's Councillor Johnny McGuinness. They're also a business owner. Lots of you calling, messaging in. We'll take an ad break, come back to some of those after these.
Watch the show live now on YouTube, Facebook and at highlandradio.com.
The 9 Till Noon Show with O'Hara's of Foxford. It took us 72 years to perfect our deliciously authentic Baker 51 sourdough bread. One bite and you'll agree true taste takes time.
Farmer Fury forces step changes. For more in your Irish Farmers Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
Find out how the department has backtracked on controversial suckler scheme. Acres payment delays hit 28,000 farmers. New €8 sheep scheme. Farmers to be charged for unsold calves and marts. Fresh blow to future of nitrates derogation. The latest from the Barn Estate court case. Plus, could the County Council inspect your farm? We have all you need to know.
All inside the Irish Farmers Journal. On sale now.
In the final clearance of Watson Menswear, there's great savings across top labels. A great selection of footwear, shirts and knitwear, half price. Selected suits and kids' clothing, also half price. There's dress shirts, 2 for €40, and denims, 2 for just €70. Don't miss out on some great bargains in the final clearance now on at Watson Menswear, Main Street, Letterkenny, and online at watsonmenswear.com. Confirmation wear also now in stock.
Find a Volkswagen commercial vehicle that can keep up with you and your business, like our Caddy Cargo, Transporter 6.1, Crafter and the new Amarok, with HP finance from 2.9% and service plans from €12.99 per month. There's never been a better time to get a vehicle that works as hard as you do. Book your test drive now at your local Volkswagen commercial vehicles dealer or visit volkswagenvans.ie. Here's to the Volkswagen in you.
Terms and conditions apply. Finance provided by way of hire purchase agreement from Volkswagen Financial Services Ireland and subject to lending criteria. Volkswagen Financial Services Ireland Limited is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Visit volkswagenvans.ie for further information.
Contact Connolly's Volkswagen Commercials in Letterkenny today. See connolly's.ie.
For day-to-day healthcare needs, generations have trusted the experienced staff at McGee's Chemist Letterkenny. From coughs and colds to aches and pains, from vitamin supplements to first aid essentials. McGee's have what you need when you need it, with a full prescription service available daily. McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny. For healthcare help and advice you can always trust.
Now, you're welcome back to the programme. I want to go to Joe Sweeney, who is IFA chairperson in Donegal. Following a meeting of the IFA National Council yesterday, it was agreed to hold a show of solidarity with farmers across the EU in each county in the Republic. Good morning to you, Joe. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Greg.
Right, OK. So tell us why the IFA are choosing to take this action across the country.
Well, we're just taking this action across the country in solidarity with our farmers across the EU because we're just fed up with the EU taking in rules and regulations and not giving the farmers probably a proper voice. All the rules and regulations are coming in. We had sort of the likes of the Green Deal fork to farm policies. We had moving away from CAP, supporting food production. We have an overcomplicated schemes. We have a lot of schemes at the present, a lot of small schemes, and it's making just awkward for farmers. We had late payments with nitrates derogation, natural restoration law, and the proposed Mercosur trade deal now is on the table as well.
Obviously, we're seeing in France, for an example, we're seeing the French farmers blockade Paris, bales out on roads. They're trying to effectively shut Paris down to get their point across. And I don't mean this disrespectfully, but you guys are going to sit in the dual carriageway in Letterkenny. Why aren't you, on behalf of your members, taking the type of action that we're seeing in France? What's different about Irish farmers to French farmers?
Well, there is actually no difference, but this is just the first step in and just letting them know that we're here. We're just doing it in solidarity with the French farmers and what's going on across Europe. We're not looking to disturb traffic or be a nuisance to the public, but it's just a first step, and it's just in solidarity with our friends in Europe.
And do you see an escalation amongst the Irish farming community in the future that perhaps maybe not going quite as far as the French farmers are, but certainly beginning to disrupt, life to try and make their point the same way the French are doing?
Well, the thing about it is we have to look at food security, Greg, and, we all talk about disruption, and we talk about importing food, and we talk about farmers and that sort of stuff. But where's the food going to come? Because all our younger farmers are not going into farming. They're moving away. They're taking other jobs, and it's because the whole system's overcomplicated. So there's no one listening. So that can work. That will work for a while and can work for a while. But it's not going to work the whole time, and it's only going to be too late when we realise that there's no food, because no one thinks about that part of it.
Yeah, but what's going to change things, though, Joe? The softly approach in Ireland isn't working if you speak to people in the farming community. Yes, some see a future for themselves, but the majority of that I speak to, particularly small farmers, medium-sized farmers, with all the challenges that they're facing at the moment, don't see a future for farming in this country. So at what point do we stop talking about it, and you as an association actually try and start doing something about it, maybe beyond the words? And as I say, I mean that with absolute respect.
Yeah, well, that's probably why we're taking this approach tonight. It's just to work and see where we can take it. It's a very difficult one, but we have to take a stand somewhere, and we're going to do this tonight anyway, and see where we're going to go with the first step, and see how it works, and see what happens after that. Because I do know sometimes in Europe, things are actually worse than what happens in Ireland. Sometimes our things in Ireland might be even better than in Europe, believe it or not. But at the minute, we're taking that approach to sort of come out and support Europe.
And show solidarity. I get you. Listen, thanks for that. Joe Sweeney, IFA Chair in Donegal. There are going to be acts of solidarity right across the country, and in Donegal it's at 7 p.m. this evening. Farmers are meeting along the hard shoulder on the dual carriageway heading into Letterkenny from the Manor roundabout. Just tractors on the hard shoulder, no other machinery. The idea, from what I'm hearing from Joe, is not to discommode the public, but to show solidarity right across the country. 08660 25,000 is the WhatsApp and text number, which you've been keeping us really, really busy on. Thank you so very much indeed. Shall we talk about the recycling scheme? I can't see this new recycling scheme working, to be honest, especially in busy households. Some people do online shopping now to help ease their busy days. What a really interesting point. Not only some people, a lot of people do the online shopping now. I think you're right, Greg. Those that chuck their takeaway wrappings and empty cans and bottles out the car window in the countryside will not stop. It'll be ironic if one of them hit Ronan. Okay, it would be ironic, and I appreciate your sense of humour there. Yeah, I can't see all them going, oh, right, well, I'm not going to chuck it into the hedgerow. I'm going to take it to my local centre and get 15 cents for it, Trying to protect the environment, but we have to drive in our cars to recycle them. Make sense of that. More Green Party BS that costs everybody a fortune. Roll on the election until we get rid of them. He sounds like a TY student who is doing a project for school. There's no party, by the way. No, just so we're all voting. There's no party of the main parties, as far as I'm aware, that actually opposes this scheme or is presenting a rollback on it. The Irish Times today says the recyclables will be shipped abroad, while Return told me on the phone it'll be incinerated in Limerick. So I have to drive 30 kilometres return to get my money back, but the return company profits. Ask the minister who is kidding who. Well, I can ask a question of the minister and he answers it. I have a certain amount of information. My understanding is that we burn most of our waste or ship it abroad, and God knows what happens to it there. But listen, there's all different types of views. I actually 100% agree with the Minister on this. It's a great idea, and it was a great idea years ago when it was in operation for glass. Sadly, I think that the people that are throwing the rubbish along the roads are not the people who will be recycling. Excellent point of view, and thank you, by the way. We want all points of view, and really do appreciate that. But does it mean that the price of the bottles will increase at the point of purchase? Thank you. Well, you get nothing for nothing, would be the way I would say that. Liam says the Minister is talking rubbish and not recycling it either. I do not see any big issue with cans and plastic bottles being discarded. He is exaggerating. Most people use the recycle bin. Or is it that really the recycle bin should be renamed the incineration bin or the export bin? No centre for returning bottles or cans in Glenty, so the nearest is Dunlow, Letterkenny. 30 or 80 kilometres return trip. Such hypocrisy. But you see, in Dublin, in Cork, in Limerick, in the cities, you see, these laws are for cities because really we need to all move into the city, and then we can ride the electric buses and we can recycle our cans and we won't use cars and we'll cycle and we'll walk. And like this whole movement really is not like we're part of it, but it's not really designed to work in a rural area. I don't think, is it? That's how it feels anyway. How is the small shop going to store these bottles and cans coming back? How will it be viable for them? It's going to take up stock room. It's absolutely different for larger stores. Yep, you see, they're on big pockets of land. And say, for instance, your Lidl, your Aldi's, I saw a couple of the machines installed outside, and they don't even have to have them inside. And the spaces are so big; they're often on such big pieces of land that it's it's a piece of cake for them. There's gridlock in Letterkenny, by the way. Does Ireland know what's happening at the Dry Arch, Letterkenny? Total gridlock around outbound. Haven't moved in 15 minutes. I don't know, but I'm sure someone out there does. Right, back to comments on these, and your comments too on the high-vis coming up as well. I can't see how the new cash for empties being so much of a success unless you're buying dozens of bottles every week. It won't be worth while storing and accumulating them in the home. It'll be much more convenient to chuck them in the recycle bin. Who's going to carry a few bottles or cans to the local supermarket just on the chance that they might get a few cents cash or reduction in the shopping? In regards to the recycling, taking back plastic bottles, I always put them in my blue recycling bin, which I pay for. So what I will be doing from now on is not use my blue bin anymore and throw it all out in the rubbish. I'm not paying twice to recycle and pay for petrol to transport plastic bottles back to the shop. Indeed. Greg, it annoys me to hear the slick ads on for the new recycling bottles and cans. Advertisers making millions. People who get online shopping cannot avail of the scheme. Also, small local shops won't be able to afford these new recycling bins, and that's where a lot of us buy our bottles and cans. Is it to encourage us to only buy our drinks in large stores? What about hotels and cafes? Where will bottles and cans be recycled? What about your bottles of Budweiser and your wine bottles? Can they be recycled? They're glass. I suppose you can already recycle them, can't you? 4 lanes at a standstill from the Polestar to the dry roundabout. Still only halfway after 20 minutes. Again, anyone out there, you've passed through it, let us know what's going on. Letterkenny to Bonagee at standstill. Where does the emergency services go if they're looking to get through? Well, not up the wrong side of the road, because they could get in trouble for that. They've been told they can't do that. I have sources suggest to me, which I think is something I wanted to talk about in the past, by the way. Did you know that if there is an emergency, someone's in the back of an ambulance and they're coming into Letterkenny, and the 2 lanes going into Letterkenny are absolutely chock-a-block, and the traffic coming out of Letterkenny is light, that an ambulance can't go up the wrong way with the lights blaring, because they will find themselves potentially getting reprimanded, or find themselves being told by the Gardaí that what they've done is illegal and it's the exact same as any other traffic offence. Do you know that? Maybe that's something that you agree with. But I'll tell you one thing. It's a tough call and it's a tough position, I think, to put ambulance drivers in, that they're being told, this is my information from a whistleblower, I suppose you could say, that if you drove up the wrong way up the dual carriageway, even in an ambulance, lights blaring with someone on death's door in the back of the ambulance, that the driver could find themselves sanctioned, and criminal sanction too from the police, from the Gardaí, for going up the other side of the dual carriageway. Can you believe that? What do you think? Is that something that surprises you, shocks you, or maybe you agree with it? 086 60 25,000.
The 9 Till Noon Show with O'Hara's of Foxford. It takes 18 hours to perfect our new 18-hour fermented sourdough bread. One bite and you'll agree true taste takes time.
Is that the new Opel?
Yes, of course.
Does it really look that good?
Yes, of course.
Is it fun to drive?
Yes, of course.
Is it packed with smart tech?
Yes, of course.
Can I test drive it right now at Manor Motors Opel?
Yes, of course.
The new Opel Corsa, now available. Hybrid and electric coming soon. See manormotors.ie for details.
Extra sleep in, no morning traffic. Sounds like a bank holiday is coming. So why not make a Sunday roast a Monday roast? At Centra, we're in a spin about our bank holiday offers, like our award-winning 100% Irish rotisserie chickens from the Inspired by Centra range for just $6.50 until February 14th. Centra, live every day.
Join me, Marty Friel, every Friday night from 8 for Rockin' Hits on Highland Radio in association with Arena 7, where you can enjoy dinner and drinks in Woodbury Grill, Bar and Restaurant before bowling in Arena 7's state-of-the-art lanes. See arena7.ie.
Do you suffer from high cholesterol, menopause symptoms, digestive issues, anxiety, aches and pains, or a lack of energy? The highly trained team at The Natural Way Letterkenny can provide advice on natural remedies for a number of individual health issues. The Natural Way also has its own brand of herbal treatments to help fight fatigue, relieve digestive discomfort, maintain a healthy immune system, and alleviate common menopause symptoms. The Natural Way at Letterkenny Shopping Centre, your one-stop health shop.
Easy Living Furniture's biggest ever winter sale ends this Sunday. This is your final chance to avail of these amazing discounts, as this whopper winter sale must end Sunday. Absolutely everything reduced across sofa, dining, bedroom, mattress and accessories. Winter sale must end Sunday at Easy Living Furniture, Crescent Link Retail Park.
Highland Radio weather updates brought to you by Grant. Building a new home? Choose Grant's A++ rated Airona air to water heat pump and Uflex underfloor heating. Visit grant.ie.
Right, it's going to become cloudier throughout the afternoon with patchy light rain, drizzle and mist developing later. Temperatures increasing, though, to 9 or 10 degrees by evening. Light winds increasing moderate to fresh southerly through the day. What is going on at the Dry Arch roundabout? Stuck in traffic on the Newport Road for the last 25 minutes. How ridiculous can this town get? Again, waiting on someone to let us know what's going on. When the pedestrian lights are broken at a crossing on a canal across from TK Maxx, some car drivers are so thick they won't stop to let folks cross over. Also, pedestrians should raise their right hand to stop them. I do, and folks think I'm crazy. I don't understand Donegal's psychology. Honestly, can't believe what Ronan is saying. Pedestrians need to make every effort to make themselves visible. Would he suggest the use of headlights on cars at night would be optional? That comes in from Jim in Ballybofey. A caller says that the blame is always on the driver if there's an incident. However, he had a near miss yesterday when a jogger ran straight out in front of him on the road, not paying any attention to the oncoming traffic. Another caller says it's only common sense to wear high-vis jackets when walking, but we don't see them that often. You know, the reason this conversation is happening, really, is because so many people, and we see them all the time when you're driving, or even when you're walking. I'm sure you walk past other people that aren't wearing a high-vis, and you wonder, really? Are you rolling the dice like that? That man is wrong in relation to not having to wear high-vis when walking or cycling. By law, tractors need to have a flashing amber light so other road users can see them coming. Surely, if a tractor, which is a lot bigger than the majority of other vehicles, needs to be seen, then things smaller than other vehicles need to be able to be seen by other road users as well. Pedestrians and cyclists have no legal need for insurance, so that's why they can do what they like. They are a law unto themselves, the listener says. Greg, every breathing human being is responsible for behaviour that contributes to their own safety and the safety of others, whether they be drivers, cyclists or walkers. All responsibility should not be laid on the vehicle driver. All are equally responsible for road safety. All right, Gary joins us on line one, maybe to give us an update on what's happening with the traffic in Letterkenny. Gary, thanks for your call. What's the story?
Good morning, Greg. Yeah. They're resurfacing the hull at Lurgy Brack.
So therefore they're stopping all the traffic leaving Letterkenny, so there's no traffic allowed out the dual carriageway just because they're resurfacing the Hull at Lurgy-Brack.
So no traffic can go out towards Lifford or Derry?
Nope. Stopping that. Everything's been stopped at the Dry Arch roundabout. So even though I was stuck on it there for about 35 minutes. Heading out to Derry Road, I'm going out the dual carriageway. There's nothing on the dual carriageway, but the man was on there the last wee while ago. He was chatting about the farmers blocking the dual carriageway.
Yeah.
We can do that. We don't need the farmers to do it. We can do it on our own. So the traffic skewed all the way to dual carriageway, also out to the Trimmer Junction.
Right, okay. Right, so
because one road in Letterkenny has been resurfaced, the whole of Letterkenny has to come to us gridlock.
Unbelievable stuff.
It's a bit silly.
Thanks for your update. I really do appreciate it, Gary. That's what's happening.
The 9 Till Noon Show with O'Hara's of Foxford. We take 18 hours to craft our new 18-hour fermented sourdough bread. Now's the perfect time to enjoy a slice.
Winter sale now on at Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms. 10% off all purchases for a limited period. T's and C's apply. See in store. Book a free consultation today in our Donegal Town showroom on 074 97 25 822. Luxury kitchens and bedrooms at affordable prices. Expect more and get more at Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms.
At SEAT, we created the Tarraco so people could enjoy an SUV with 7 seats. Then we made it so good looking that everyone kept saying, "Oh my, what is that? It's stunning." Then we got to wondering, what if we made it even better? So now you can get a limited edition 7-seater Tarraco SE Tech with stunning 18-inch alloys, intelligent park assist, electronic hands-free tailgate, and comfortable heated front seats and steering wheel. The Tarraco SE Tech, our best SUV, just got even better. Search SEAT Tarraco.
At Lidl, we've dropped the prices of over 600 products. So you save on essentials like shower gels, Irish chicken breast fillets and fusilli pasta. That lowers the price of a whole trolley from €87.01 to €71.94. Plus like €15 back in your pocket. That's even more reasons to go full Lidl today. For full list of products, see Lidl.ie/price drops.
The ever-popular Bluegrass Festival returns to Ardra from Friday the 2nd to Sunday the 4th of February, featuring some of the finest bluegrass acts in the world. Direct from Nashville, this year's headline act is East Nash Grass, playing live in the Beehive Bar with special guests on Saturday the 3rd at 8:30 and Sunday the 4th at 7:30. Don't miss what promises to be an exceptional weekend of bluegrass in Ardra, Friday the 2nd to Sunday the 4th of February. For accommodation and more, see ardra.ie.
This bank holiday weekend, it really could be... That's right, there's one bank holiday millionaire guaranteed in the Lotto Plus raffle. A millionaire? That would certainly put a bit of into your long weekend. So play Lotto with Plus this Saturday for your chance to become Ireland's newest millionaire. The National Lottery. This bank holiday weekend, it could be you. Play responsibly. Play for fun.
With all the stories that matter across the Northwest, it's Greg Hughes on the 9 to Noon Show on Highland Radio.
Okay, coming up in the next hour, more of your comments on some of the big issues of the day. We're going to be talking history with Dr. Joe, all that and so much more besides. But first, let's get a news update, and it's over to Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. The chair of Donegal County Council's Defective Concrete Blocks Committee says issues with the council's online portal have been resolved. It'll be back online and functioning properly within days. Councillor Mark McDermott was responding to comments from Milford and Resource Centre Manager Declan Meehan, who called on the council to get its act together after reports that people couldn't upload invoices onto the portal. Officers from the PSNI's International Policing Unit have arrested a man in Derry in relation to a fatal road collision in the Republic in 2022. The 27-year-old is wanted to stand trial for alleged dangerous driving causing death in County Louth in July of that year. He was detained by virtue of an international warrant by officers from the Waterside Policing Neighbourhood Team in Derry last evening. He'll be brought before an extradition court in Belfast later. 3 people have died in a crash in Carlow. It happened at around 11:30 last night on the N80 at Leah on the Wexford Road. A 4th person is in hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries. The deal done with the DUP to get the Northern Executive running again will go before the UK House of Commons today, with suggestions that the Assembly may meet within days. Meanwhile, bus and train services aren't running across the north again today, as workers at Translink stage another work stoppage over pay. With the return of Stormont imminent, workers are being asked to defer future strikes because money will be available for increased public sector pay as a result of the deal. HICWA has published a report following an inspection at Abbey Village Group Homes in Kilmacrennan. It was an announced inspection as part of the registration renewal process. No non-compliances were noted, and a plan to address a number of minor issues has been included in the publication. And it's claimed a 5-year wait for weight loss surgery in Ireland is pushing people to go to Turkey. Sean Crowe, the chair of the Oireachtas Committee on Health, says waiting lists are unacceptably high. It comes as more people are living with obesity than ever before. And they're the headlines. Back with more at noon.
Thank you very much indeed, Donal. And just to remind you, if you are stuck in traffic in and around Letterkenny, lots of you are, there seems to be some resurfacing work happening at the Ballabufay Road effectively, and it's causing gridlock. We're going to keep you updated on that over the course of the hour, so stay right where you are. Back after this really short break.
The 100% electric new Nissan Ariya is now on Irish roads, which means you'll discover the game-changing silhouette that sets it apart, as well as its luxurious interior inspired through Japanese design. Then you'll discover the smooth acceleration, quiet operation and advanced technology that makes every drive a pleasure. The new Nissan Ariya from €43,500. Test drive it today and discover outstanding. Nissan, innovation that excites. Dealer delivery and related charges apply.
Okay, I support the motion that high-vis should be mandatory. Every pedestrian should wear high visibility clothing during the day and the night. Another caller says, I'm driving up and down past the new Greenway in Castlefin to Lifford. Is there going to be lights on this Greenway? I'm not quite sure, let us know. Mandatory wearing of life jackets at sea has saved many lives, and the mandatory wearing of high-vis vests would save many more. Actually, a really good point there. Cyclists should have to pay road tax if they want to use public roads, believes another caller. I agree with that man that everyone has to take responsibility for themselves. The driver is blamed for everything. So that's someone in Roland's corner there. The Green Party want to do away with rural Ireland. Don't stop them from flying all over the world, then preach to us about saving the environment. And I think that's referencing a story yesterday which shows that just in terms of green ministers travelling around the world, flying around the world for St. Patrick's Day, they will produce the equivalent, and this is them singularly, not the whole plane, by the way, just to be clear. I presume everyone knows that. So it's not the plane in and of itself, it's actually the seat in which you're on, if you were to break it down, is the equivalent to all of the emissions of 2 family cars for a full year. I've been buying bottled water and it has no R logo on it to be used in this scheme. What's the point of paying an extra 25 cents if you use your recycle bin at home? When will these logos be available on products to avail of the scheme? Interesting point. The Minister says a grant is available for recycling machines. The grant that is provided by the government will have that many regulations that it will be hard to get. By the time the person gets the grant, all the good of it will be gone. Cost will be put into trying to prove why you need the grant. Another caller says, I'm a smaller retailer and I've had to stop putting my bin at the front as customers are filling it with household waste. I don't mind disposing of the waste, but people jamming it and making it overflow is the problem. I have to clean the mess then. And you're not on your own. Some local authorities have removed bins because the public use them, if you know what I mean. Now, I know yours is a private property and it's easier not to have a bin than it is to maintain that bin. Eamon Ryan says a listener is getting his payback for getting into bed with Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, and the country has to suffer this badly thought out system. In the context of the Green Agenda, can Greg ask for comments on the fact that Shell, a UK petrochemical company, has just announced tax profits of, I presume that's 22 billion for last year? Well, listen, there's big money in oil. Sitting 25 minutes in traffic, leaving Letterkenny on the Port Road. Any idea what's going on? Well, we talked about that. It appears to be roadworks on or out in the direction of Lurgy Brack. And it's, as our frustrated driver said a little earlier on, it's just locking the whole town up. I'll be buying my bottled water in cans in the north now, and I will not be using them machines, says a listener. Right, okay. We're joined on the programme now by Jerry Early. Jerry Early, who's an island fisherman's representative. Thank you very much for joining us, Jerry. I do appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg.
Now, we're speaking off the back of a 12-metre fishing boat which ran aground earlier this week off the coast of Donegal, and it sort of talks to a wider issue here, Jerry.
Yeah, I suppose, the good thing about this, Greg, is that as all the lads were rescued, were lifted off by the rescue helicopter. We were paged, our lifeboat was paged yesterday morning at 6 a.m. and we're told there was a vessel aground at Inishman, which is just west of Gweedore. So by the time our lads and ladies got there, they were joined by the Rescue 118 helicopter, who did, as always, fantastic work in getting the lads off, But look, it's I suppose when the dust does, we're thankful, first of all, Greg, that they're all safe, the skipper and the crew are safe. But I mean, it points to the bigger issue, as far as I'm concerned, that, these lads are having to go further, work longer, and because of lack of fishing opportunities, lack of quota. So yeah, it's look, I mean, like I say, it's grand the boats, that the lads are well, but there's a bigger issue here.
And
as well.
is it still the case, Jerry, that really we have a system that if people want to fish throughout the winter, they're restricted where they can fish, i.e. further out to sea, but they're also restricted in the size of their vessels. So effectively, if they want to keep working and want to keep earning more money, they're almost being compelled to take a risk they ordinarily wouldn't want to.
That's exactly it in a nutshell, Greg. I mean, this is a 12-metre boat. I mean, it was a fine boat. This young man who, an island fisherman from West Donegal, he wanted to stay at home when he built up this business. But I mean, since he came into the business, it's just been one cut after the other, Greg, and it's forcing them into areas I suppose they don't want to go into. But I mean, at the end of the day, he has mortgages to pay, he has insurance to pay, he has crew to pay. So yeah, it's really, Greg, I suppose, to highlight that the inshore fishing sector is on his knees, totally on his knees, and young men like this yesterday were just forced into a position that I don't think that they should be in. There's only so much that they can take, but if they're not out, their debts are building up, and they're being forced to fish all year round, Greg. And look at it, it's not acceptable.
And what it also does is it means that every single hour during the summer is spent out at sea. And I know that personally myself. Does it also not need to be some sort of support for these inshore fishermen during the winter time? Because, as I say, it's hard to retain crew. Often you can't go out, you can't take these risks, so your boats you're tied up and you're hamstrung. I can see even more having to leave this business because they can't get the money in the summer to get through the winter. Is that a big concern amongst the inland fishing community?
Of course it is, Greg, and it's not been helped in the last 15, 20 years where all the fisheries, the typical fisheries, they would fish all year round in safe waters and in calm waters or calmer waters, have been either closed due to lack of, in my opinion, lack of evidence and hiding behind scientific evidence to me, and most times that the science is neglected, Greg, are the fishermen, that know what's happening on the ground. And it's a real sense of, and honestly, this has happened before and it'll happen again, where lads are being forced into positions they don't want to go into. And I'm calling on the Minister, I'm calling on the Department of the Marine to get supports for these lads that, when they're not fishing, at least they have some sort of income. And again, it's this is all means tested and go through the loopholes. I mean, to get any sort of supports, Greg, it's just not worth the bother because there's so many loopholes and there's so many, it's a real
sense of frustration for us all.
And also, too, I know this is really obvious, Jerry, but I'm going to have to go there. You know, we saw a almost a procession of mega trawlers coming from the north to fish in Irish waters. It's so frustrating that you have these fellas and women, but mostly fellas, I think it is anyway, but that's irrelevant, who can't fish during the winter or have to take great risks, crazily driven out to sea effectively to try and make a few bob, whilst our waters are floundered by these mega vessels that have free reign, and we don't really even have a navy to make sure they're abiding by the law. They just come into our waters and scoop up whatever they want to scoop. Often it's not even landing in Ireland, so there's no benefit to us at all whatsoever. I just can't imagine how bloody frustrating it must be for someone whose boat's tied up to Greencastle Pier or Downing's Pier or the pier in Ironmore or wherever it might be.
Yeah, and you've nailed it, Greg. And this is not just, affecting the inshore sector. This is affecting all the boats in Donegal. I mean, if you go down to Killybegs today, there's the finest of boats tied up, and they don't have quota to go out, whereas Norwegians, Faroese, Icelandics, they're coming down into our waters. I mean, if you look west of, if you go onto a marine tracker that most fishermen, a lot of people have now, but if you go onto a marine tracker, Greg, and look out west of Ireland, it's a highway, it's a pure highway of boats, and none of them are carrying an Irish flag. It's ridiculous in this day and age, Greg, that we have the richest fishing waters in Europe. And this is, it's a top-down or bottom-up, whatever way you want to look at it. If these boats weren't out there, there's more fish inshore, there's more fish outshore. I mean, look at it. I'm not going to get into the nuts and bolts of it. I've been saying it for 20 years almost, and I'm getting tired of the sound of my own voice in this, but I mean, it's wrong on every level, Greg, that the fishermen always seem to be at the bottom of the chain.
It's kind of interesting because I am on the Marine website, and just looking at the dozens and dozens of boats that are fishing off the coast. There's a massive range of them. And the only one that's actually identifiable is one that's fishing out of Killybegs. All the rest are, there's no way of tracking them. I'm sure those in the business probably know how to track them. But the majority of them have no ID at all, just for the regular user like myself, except two that are out of Killybegs, which is really quite bizarre. But anyway, okay. I just, you see, the thing is though, Jerry, and I was having this conversation with someone who works in this industry, very, very frustrated, sitting when they can't be making money, no life in the summer because they're out at sea for every hour that God sends, and when this next generation that would have followed their parents into this business, when that chain's broken, it's like when you're fighting a fire. You cut trees down to fight a fire sometimes to stop the fire spreading, and it just feels that unless something changes really, really quick, if it's not too late already, that the fire break has been put in there, and there is actually it's a sunset industry. There is no one left to continue the tradition of inshore fishing. Yeah, and I mean, Greg, it's at breaking point, and it has been going down and going down and going down. But I mean, yesterday what happened? This young man, who invested vast amount of money to stay in the industry, and got a lovely boat and got loads of gear and tried to just make a living for himself. It's nothing more, nothing less than that, Greg. And to see his livelihood taken away from him, in one fell sweep, because again, did he have to be out? He absolutely did have to be out. And it's just, look at, I think that all supports that are forthcoming, that should be made available to this young man and his family. Proud island men that I know today that they're thankful they're alive, but I mean, at the end of the day, Greg, their livelihood is lying on a rock down on his man, and that's sad for us all, It is, and it's just difficult to see, and I'm not conflating clicking on these boats and the ones that have flags, they're Norwegian flags or Icelandic flags or whatever, and here we are. It's so frustrating. And I'm really glad this topic came up today. What I'm not glad is that it came off the back of that awful situation for that young person. Thank you very much for that, Jerry, as always. I really do appreciate it. Liam, hello.
Good morning, Greg.
You're a big advocate for the industry.
Jerry.
But go on.
Well, Jerry's like myself. He's fishing from an early age. Grew up with it. Grew up on the coastline with the older fishermen. You familiarising yourself with what you're around your waters, and grew up to see what way the fishing's going. Well, I would say the onshore fishery is dead on its feet. You go to Greencastle, go down in the morning, it's depressing to see the amount of wee boats is there, and the price. Even that that boat was lost there yesterday, the day before, the night before. It was a good job. The Coast Guard got them off, and fair play to them. And we've seen this, and it didn't end up with tragedy. What has happened along the coast for a lot of years.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to pressure. It has to pressure that these men have to go out to fish and have to go out and stay out to get their, with the markets down and all the rest. But what I see here, even in Greencastle, is a graveyard of wee boats. Mm-hmm. What's going to happen to these wee boats? They can't afford to keep them, especially with the oyster fishery, and the foil has depleted. And a lot of the fishermen will put it down to poor management. We have no voice, no politicians whatsoever from every party have turned a blind eye on us. They've turned a blind eye, they've turned their back on us. Minister McConnell will go walk out the pier, he'll spend millions on a pier, out the pier. Quite honestly, we don't see what the difference of this breakwater. We'd call it a dam out the pier. It hasn't made the pier any better. And Mr. Farn in the town, shouting, what about the fishing? They seem to go past the whole inshore fleet in our harbour and to get about them. And there is no young people coming into the industry. I have a son there, he's at 29, coming on 30. Maybe a couple of younger boys at 25, 26. That's what's in this harbour. There is no people coming behind. They can't afford even to get into the game because it's too expensive.
And even those that are out fishing at the moment, I can't find a boat with an Irish flag. I found one. It's the O'Glarry. That's the only boat I could actually find.
Yeah, that's a boat out of Killybegs. That's a large vessel. We can make him passage.
Yeah, that's the only one I could find.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening to you. No, as I say, I'm listening intently to you, but also clicking through, and I've managed just to find one boat, and that was the O'Glarry out of Killybegs, as you said. But what is the future then? Because if you hear the announcement, say for Killybegs now, it feels it's about offshore wind. It feels like it's about cruise ships. You know, the conversation when we talk about our piers, even the Greencastle breakwater that you talk of, yes, obviously for the fishing industry, but one of the advantages being seen is that it might make it better for leisure craft and what have you. Do you know what I mean?
That's happening right through the coast, but we know what's what. It's when they're going to get rid of us. When all the Donegal County Council, not the Donegal County Council, all the parties involved with the Donegal Fisheries Board and all the rest, is when they're going to get rid of us, because they have out to 3 mile off the shore now for foreshores on their housing and all the rest. So it's when they're going to pull the plug on all of us. Like the harassed here, a border, as you've seen there this week with assembly up and going again with the border. We can't even test our oysters, leaving the foil now, can't even go through England because Britain will not accept the test if they're going to Holland. You have to go now down to the bottom of the country and go through France to come back up through Germany and Holland and that there if you want to go to your northern European markets.
All right, Liam, listen, it is...
We're a shared island. We were a shared island.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a shared body under the 1952 Foreign Fisheries Act with the two governments. But they can share the policing regulation. And we have told it, and we've told it for long enough. And our fishery this year, the oyster fishery this year, lasted 6 weeks. That is not sustainable for any small inshore boat. There used to be a mussel industry here. We had a salmon industry. We are oyster industry. They're slowly depleting us. And I would say for any of them down there now, I don't see nobody around that pier. If I've seen a boat come in, it's one of the larger boats coming in with their crew, they do their gear in and they head back out again.
Right.
From that from that, maybe to the next boat comes in, the pier is like a ghost pier.
Right, Liam, listen, we're going to have to leave it there.
Of small inshore boats.
Yeah, I know, it's heartbreaking.
And nobody's helping us.
Okay.
It's a culture.
Yeah, there's more in it. There's more to it. There's a bigger conversation we need to have about the future of inshore fishermen and the plight that they have. I know there was a delegation from one organisation that represents inshore fishermen that was down in the Shannon last week or the week before. I didn't get any notice of that because I would have been interested in talking about that. But anyway, Liam, listen, thank you for now. Take care of yourself. We're going to be talking history with the man, Dr. Joe, after these.
The county's #1 talk show, the 9 Til Noon Show on Highland Radio.
The 9 Til Noon Show with O'Hara's of Foxford. Our new Baker 51 authentic sourdough celebrates 72 years of baking. Now's the perfect time to try it for yourself.
Farmer Fury forces scap changes. For more in your Irish Farmer's Journal, here's Paul Mooney.
Find out how the department has backtracked on controversial suckler scheme. Acres payment delays hit 28,000 farmers. New €8 sheep scheme. Farmers to be charged for unsold calves and marts. Fresh blow to future of nitrates derogation. The latest from the Barn Estate court case. Plus, could the county council inspect your farm? We have all you need to know.
All inside the Irish Farmer's Journal. On sale now.
Are you ready to elevate your driving experience? Look no further than iMotors, your only Nissan dealership in the Northwest. The Nissan X-Trail has been crowned Large SUV of the Year. That's right, it's not just an SUV, it's an award-winning experience on wheels. Available in 4-wheel drive and a 7-seater. Visit us today at imotors.ie to find out more.
Transform your home with a visit to McGinley's Furniture Letterkenny, located at the Portlink Business Park just off the Port Road. You'll find a huge selection of top-quality suites, beds and mattresses, also slide robes and custom-made dining and occasional furniture, with prices to suit every budget. See the great choice for yourself at our showroom, McGinley's Furniture, Portlink Business Park, Port Road, Letterkenny. Click mcginleysfurniture.com.
Congratulations on making it through the 500 days of January. Now enjoy the bank holiday with Centra's great offers. Like Inspired by Centra selected breakfast deal, any 3 for €6. Selected Goodfellas Stone Baked Thin Crust Pizza, €2. And Santorita 120 Sauvignon Blanc, €8. Shop smart, feel good. Centra. Live every day. Enjoy, call sensibly.
Okay, we are back with Dr. Joe Kelly, our historian. We're talking history. Good morning to you, Joe. Thanks so much for joining us.
Why you good, Greg? Because the luck day. Good morning to yourself and to your listeners there on Highland Radio.
Yeah, long time no speak. Now, the annual Patrick McGill Summer School in Glentees was inaugurated in 1981. It's become a well-established event on Donegal's summer calendar. But who is the man behind the name Patrick McGill? An interesting person, I presume, Joe?
A very interesting man, and maybe in today's environment it'd be interesting if he was alive, how he'd be looking at Donegal and Ireland and the bigger, wider world. Look, he's known for his writing, his publications, his books, his novels, his poetry, his dramas, the different bits of literature that he had written, and it was very much of a socialist mindset, talking about the life he was living and the perception he had at that time. So look, at maybe to begin, he's born in 1890 on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, sorry, and so that places him in a context of a changing Ireland. This is pre-1916, this is pre-independence, look, he describes very clearly the poverty and growing up in Glentees and the difficulties that entailed. And he had a family. There was 11 of them in the family. His younger brother died when he was 11 or so. And he went to school. He didn't get much schooling. He maybe got an odd month here and there. He was out tattyhoking, and he went to Scotland to work as a young man of 15. So life was hard, and the hardship there and the challenge. So look, that's the background he came from.
And we do get an insight into 1890s Glentees through his work throughout his life.
Well, I mean, he wrote a number of novels. Probably the two most famous one would be Children of the Dead End. Now, how appropriate is that maybe to the children of today's Donegal, Children of the Dead End? And then he wrote another book called The Rat Pit. And, the protagonist in that book there some would say it was autobiographical in the sense that he was talking about his own life and how the challenges that he had himself, Tatty Hogan going to have to work as a navvy in Scotland.
Well,
talk
to us about you know, because when you mentioned about Tatty Hogan and being a navvy in Scotland, obviously, you know, it's within living memory for a lot of people as well, but some people may not be familiar with it at all. So how would a young person find themselves getting that job? How would they get there? What would that job entail? What might their life be like in Scotland?
Well, first and foremost, because of the poverty, the family income had to be augmented. There wasn't enough finance to be made off your farm. So children were hired out to the lagan. That's the first thing. And that would take in some income. And then the older ones, when they'd be 15 or so, it was kind of nearly a rite of passage. When they were no longer hired out to the lagan, they were sent usually with their father, uncles, whoever, to Scotland. And they went out to these farms in Scotland and just worked tatty oak and gathering potatoes or turnips. And it was a harsh life. Very hard work, long days, not necessarily fed the best. And it talks about one occasion in Scotland about how one of the houses that they were in, the little vines, described how the rain came down through it and the floor was all wet and they had nothing to do but stand there all night in the rain. One wonders today with their mica houses, you know, how reflective of that is today's society. But he basically talks about that. He's a player who worked as a navvy himself in real life in Scotland. Now, a navvy would have come from the phrase a navigational engineer, someone that would have been working on canals, but later that went to roads and trains and such. Anybody that was doing those kind of constructions. And he worked on a dam in Scotland, the Caledonian Railway. He worked there as well, and he worked on the Kinloch Lowen Dam as well. But while he was there, he started to write. It was about 1909 when he was about the age of 20, and he wrote a book and actually got it published here and back home in the Derry Journal, published it for him, his first book, Gleanings from a Navvy's Scrapbook in 1910.
Is it any good?
And he had
have you read it?
Yeah, I have. And I read most of his works, believe it or not. And basically what it was a series of poems. His stuff is just beautiful. If he'd indulge me, you know, one of his poems, Going Home. I'm going back to Glanties when the harvest fields are brown and the autumn sunset lingers on my little Irish town, where the gossamer is shining, where the moorland's blooms blow. I'll take the road across the hill I trampled so long ago. It's afar I'm on beyond the sea, but yearning voices call. Will you not come back to Glanties and your wave-washed Donegal?
I mean, it's lovely, and it's melodic, but it's quite simple too, if you know what I mean. Sometimes poetry can be quite pretentious, but it paints a wonderful picture quite simply with simple language.
Very earthed and very much in with the nature and with his experience. And he had the good fortune when he went round selling these books then when he got printed, door to door. And there was a newspaper man, Neil Morrow, that was working for a newspaper in Scotland at the time, a journalist. He liked the book. Some way it got into his hands, and he published one of his poems in the Scottish paper. And because of that, he ended up selling about 8,000 copies. So he made a few pounds out of that, and while he was still working as a navvy, as a labourer. And one of these people that had read then the book or heard about the book was a Canon John Neil Dalton, who was actually the private tutor to Queen Victoria's children, King George, later King George V, Prince George, and also to Prince Albert. And he heard about Patrick, read his stuff and said, would you come and work for me, helping me translate manuscripts in Windsor Castle? And so Patrick, initially he went to work in Scotland, or not in London after that, as a newspaper reporter.
So what age are we there now? Sorry, I always be fascinated as the age progression here. So at what age might he have been heading to London as a journalist?
He was about 21 when he moved to London, about that age, and worked for the Daily Mail initially. But then he got a job, as I said, with this Canon Dalton, that was the tutor to the Queen at the time. And while he was there, that's when he started to write The Children of the Dead End, and he talked about Glenmoran, which was Glenties, basically. And it was very much, if you read it, it's very much describing the life in northwest Donegal. It could be said of the time. And then later on, then he followed on with The Rat Pit, which was the main man in the book of The Children of the Dead End, the protagonist, Dermot Flynn, his sweetheart was Nora Ryan, and they had a child outside wedlock, and then things went wrong. She was ostracized and poverty, and then she went into prostitution and death. So we're very, very controversial maybe at its time.
But just in relation to the source material, Joe, did he use his life in Glenties and his experience and his upbringing and the poverty, as a backdrop to his books, or did he use his books to highlight the plight of some people? Do you know what I mean? What do you get the sense of his motivation was? Was it? I'm not saying it was exploitative, but was he using his platform and his abilities, I suppose, to shine a light on the realities for some, or what would your read of it be?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I think the answer is he did both. I think that he understood his environment out of which he emerged and articulated that in his books, but at the same time he had a social conscience which wasn't necessarily in agreement with the powers that be at the time, and like, he was ostracized and he was condemned from the altar, so to speak, because he was seen as challenging the status quo. I mean, he really despised the Gombeen men, the men that owned the shops that would, when people ran out of food spuds and they hadn't any other foods, they would get grain on rent, and then there was an interest put on that, and the prices were usurped and it became very expensive. And he kind of was annoyed that the Catholic Church of the time, so to speak, sponsored that in the sense that they lay in with the Gombeen men because they were providing them with finance. And he often questioned, was this what the carpenter of Galilee was about? Was this is? And so, look, that was a very, very controversial time. And he did challenge the authoritarian church. Father McFadden, who was from Gweedore, well, he was from Carrigart, but he served in Gweedore during the Land War, and he was jailed on 2 occasions. But he was later appointed to Glenties, and he built a large house there. And he was very critical of him, about him and a pot-bellied priest smoking cigars, and had a lavatory that cost £300. So he was very, very critical of Father McFadden. Yet, if you go to Gweedore and Clonelly, Father McFadden was seen as a hero because he was in jail and standing for the tenants back in the 1890s.
So more generally then, how was his writings received at home? Was he seen as a hero of the poor, or always say, oh, look, he's a fast talker now over in London with the bigwigs?
Yeah, again, I wonder. I think in some ways, because of the social status of the time and the influence of the Gombeen men and the church, he was a little bit ostracized, I would imagine, not necessarily purposely by his own community, but that's what they were led to believe, that this wasn't a good man. This was a man that was bringing atheism, or maybe bringing a different perspective, challenging the status quo, and that we couldn't have this. Now, he fought in World War I. He joined the London Irish, and he fought in World War I, and he got injured in Loos in early on, one of the first battles, and he was then recruited by MI7B. It was more a propaganda ministry that was there at the time. He worked with the author of Winnie the Pooh. He was working in the famous author of that children's story. They were working there promoting propaganda stories to try to encourage the men to continue fighting. But he also...
Thank God we don't see... Thank God that stopped now.
Yeah, well, I don't think so.
No comment.
I think the governments are doing this all the time.
But no, exactly. But they saw his ability, obviously, as a journalist, and because he had to write a few books, and they says, right, you are the man for this job. So, what happened to him post-war then?
Well, during the war, he actually then himself, he kept copious notes, and obviously...
No, he wrote books during the war, didn't he?
Yeah. You're correct. And he, do you see, he was a stretcher bearer first, which meant that he was out in the worst place possible because he saw the carnage and the death and the pain and just the horror of it. I mean, Canon Kerr from Fanet, who was a wartime chaplain as well, a Catholic chaplain, he died in Godahork in 1956, and he talked about it being a birth into reality. Like, the realities of war was just horrible. And so then he became a rifleman, but because of his injury, he was obviously, he came back to England, but he wrote 3 books: The Amateur Army, The Red Horizon, and my favourite, The Great Push. And sure, people would know the poem, The Death of the Fairies. Before I joined the army, I lived in Donegal, where every night the fairies would hold their carnival. But now I'm out in Flanders, where men like wheat ears fall, and it's death and not the fairies that's holding carnival. Like, just so beautiful, the carnage of the death, but understanding it from the fairies, and the idea of the corn.
And just in terms of the structure, there was, and as I say, I am in no position to criticise his early work, and you've only just picked out 2 examples, but there does seem to be a bit of more maturity to his later writings than his earlier writings, in terms of his attitude to life and his structuring of the sentences.
Well, he was basically challenging us, what was this butchery about, why has this been done? And he tried to use simple language. It would remind me a little bit of Patrick Kavanagh in certain ways. And one thing you have to remember is he didn't get a terrible lot of schooling. He didn't get a terrible lot of education. Maybe, he said himself, a couple of months in a school in Glenties, because he was away working, tattyhoking, and hired out. So, for a man that had been given so little formal education, to be able to write the way he did is pretty amazing. And it maybe should be to all of us that, education shouldn't limit us, or lack of education shouldn't limit us to develop our own educational ability. And I think, if anything, that's what he proved. Yeah. But you asked me, is later, after the war, he did come back to Glenties once after the war, supposedly, and hired out a pony and trap, and went up and down Glenties, whether that is true or not, to show that he had risen to higher levels, and that he supposedly was wearing his British Army uniform. Now, whether that's true or not, that's what the local folklore in Glenties would have us told.
Quite the homecoming parade.
Yeah, and again, being seen as, here's the man coming back among us that's not one of us, and sees things differently the world we do. And again, what I said earlier on, he was challenging the social system of the time, and the Gombianism and the clerical control. And something? He was correct in many of the things that he was challenging, and we can say that honestly now, but maybe at the time that wasn't appreciated.
Or he was part of the dismantling. Not necessarily that it's a good or bad thing, but he was part of, and you see that right now in modern life, the way what is normal now, there are those working to change what is normal now. Whether that happens or not, who's to say? So, I mean, let's fast forward. So he's 25, 30 now. He's living in Donegal, and this is, supposing to some extent. Go ahead. Did you want to come in there, Joe?
Didn't we come back to Donegal? We went back to...
No, but I'm saying now, let's drag him into 2024, and we can go back if need be, but we have to move it along. Like, what would he be writing about now? What would his poems be about now? What material would he be writing about?
Well, I mean, I think there'd be a number of things that he'd be saying, like, who's the new church? We've seen the demise of the Catholic authoritarian church, and I think anybody would say that's a welcome thing. It's a church should have been based on faith, not on authority. And he challenged the status quo at that time. But then who's the new church? See, people made this idea that, the church has demised in its authoritarianism, but that vacuum has to be replaced by some other people or some other institution.
Hierarchy or authority, or whatever way you want to phrase it.
And is this the government? We used to fast on a Friday. That was the old Catholic thing. And maybe we still do sometimes. But, the new church and the Sadducees of our government, for example, are telling us that we should eat less portions of meat on our plate. I mean, is this the new religion of green agenda government? I don't know. And yet we're told that we're going to have to cull, 200,000 of our cattle, 10% of our cattle. That's what we're being proposed to, and particularly in rural Donegal.
And particularly given, and you can argue the toss about the famine, or was it a famine, or was it what it was, but food dependency. People presume that things can never happen again that happened in the past. we are also moving towards not being actually food dependent, self-dependence, you know.
And that's a very, very, if we're going to remove 200,000 cattle from Irish stock, I mean, the price of milk's going to go up, the price of butter's going to go up, the price of everything's going up, and that's the ordinary tenant. And what I find very strange about that, and maybe this is where Patrick McGill might be looking at, is 2022, the number of private jets in Ireland doubled. And here all the emphasis is on reducing the herd and not on the reality.
But jets, all of aviation only accounts for 2 to 3% of harmful gases. But anyway, listen, that's not the point. So it's kind of interesting here, and I have to choose my words carefully, because the character you're portraying of Patrick McGill is actually how some people might see the McGill Summer School. To some extent, there's crossovers there, and I don't say that as a negative. I've attended many's a time, but that you have all of these Dublin-based, not exclusively, but international people kind of coming into Glenties and sort of saying how things are. And I kind of sort of see McGill, if he did return in his uniform and going up, if it's kind of, some might see as it feels a little bit familiar, right? That's not a criticism, but I'm seeing some correlation here, but not in a particularly negative way. Are you slapping me down for that?
Oh no, I'm getting you, and like, you know, I've heard your interviews before. After last summer's McGill Summer School, there was some criticism that politicians were just arriving there and dumping their speech, no challenge, no room for free play of talk, no debate, no knuckling down and really debating the real issues. There's been that criticism at them. I don't know, but I just wonder if Patrick McGill was alive today, would he be invited back to his own summer school?
That's what's fascinating. Come here, last minute, what's his legacy then?
I don't know. I think one of his legacy is, hopefully, is that his ability to challenge the status quo at the time, that he had the ability in his time to read his environment in which he was living in, and we too need to do that. And like, for example, his book, Children of the Dead End, how appropriate is that for us today? Last year, 21,000 Irish young men and women sought Australian holiday and work visas, student visas and work visas, 21,000, because possibly they can't afford to live in Ireland. They're going to go away to make money to come back to build a house. Are those words really profound today? Are we still living in Children of the Dead End, Donegal of the Dead End? And what would he be challenging to make sure that legacy would no longer be? What must we do? What can we do? And, you know, asking the right questions and then looking for the right answers, I think that's what his legacy is. And that's always a duty on all of us. You know, there's an article, I think it's 9.3 of the Constitution, it's a duty of every citizen, fidelity to the nation and loyalty to the state. And we have a duty towards the citizens of this country to ensure that this isn't the country of the dead end and to make it a lot better than it is.
All
and
right.
That's for everybody to do that.
And we're still talking about that, 140 years later after his birth. Okay, thanks very much. As always, Dr. Joe, really appreciate it. Dr. Joe Kelly there.
The 9 Til Noon Show with O'Hara's of Foxford, introducing our new Baker 51 authentic sourdough bread, a delicious new addition to the team.
On Business Matters this Sunday after the 6 o'clock news, my guest is Adam Graham of Recharge Recovery Room at the Ora Leisure Centre in Letterkenny.
Business Matters in association with the Faculty of Business at ATU Donegal. For a career in financial governance, consider the Level 9 MA in Governance and IT in Financial Services. Call 9186206 or email donald.hannigan@atu.ie today.
Winter sale now on at Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms. 10% off all purchases for a limited period. T's and C's apply. See in store. Book a free consultation today in our Donegal Town showroom on 074 97 25 822. Luxury kitchens and bedrooms at affordable prices. Expect more and get more at Cherrymore Kitchens and Bedrooms.
Sailor Bill returns to the Ballard Theatre on Saturday the 3rd of February, a night of music and crack with special guest Chelsea Evans. Tickets are €15, are available on the Ballard website at ballardartcentre.com or by calling to the Ballard Theatre front desk.
Tesco Club Card gives you the power to lower prices to help you wave goodbye to the January blues and say hello to the bank holiday weekend. Like Pringles Sour Cream and Onion 165 gram was €3.49, now €1.50. Doritos Chili Heatwave 150 gram was €2.79, now €2. And Coke Zero cans 24 pack was €19, now €10. Lower the cost of your shop with your Tesco Club Card or app. The power to lower prices. Tesco. Every little helps. Products subject to availability. Prices may vary in express stores.
The 9 Til Noon Show with O'Hara's of Foxford, introducing our new 18-hour fermented sourdough bread. A winner with the whole family.
Donegal will look to make it back-to-back victories in Division 2 of the league this weekend. After the win over Cork, Jim McGuinness's side hit the road on Sunday to take on Cavan. Join the Highland team for full match commentary from the 4 p.m. throw-in at Kingspan Breffni Park.
Highland's coverage of Donegal in Division 2 of the National Football League is brought to you by Highland Motors in Letterkenny. New cars available to test drive include the Renault Arcana with sporty coupe lines and sturdy SUV looks. For a test drive or to order your new 241, pop into Highland Motors.
If you're starting a new business in 2024, let BizPrint help with all your printing needs. Logo design, invoice books, business cards and promotional products. Call BizPrint in Letterkenny today on 9177 955 or visit bizprint.ie.
On the wings of a snow. Hot Country TV Sky 588 in association with Highland Radio present in concert a tribute to country music legend Charlie Pride by his brother Stephen and six-piece band with guests at the Mount Erigal Hotel Letterkenny Wednesday 27th of March 2024. Hear over 40 of Charlie Pride's hits. This is a concert not to be missed. Tickets €25. Available from hotel reception now.
Highland Radio weather updates brought to you by Grant. Building a new home? Choose Grant's A++ rated Airona air-to-water heat pump and Uflex underfloor heating. Visit grant.ie.
Okay, getting cloudier as the afternoon wears on. Patchy light rain, drizzle and mist developing later. Temperatures rising though, 9 or 10 degrees. Light winds increasing moderate to fresh southerly through the day. Now, we're going to talk about Safety Internet Day, or Safer Internet Day. It takes place next Tuesday, February the 6th, and it's celebrated around in approximately 180 countries worldwide. Fiona Jennings is Head of Policy and Public Affairs at the ISPCC. Good morning to you, Fiona.
Good morning, Greg.
And I suppose it's about raising awareness of a safer and better internet for all, and especially, of course, for children and young people. So how is that achieved through Safer Internet Day? I suppose the question being, what is Safer Internet Day?
Yeah, so Safer Internet Day, it's really a landmark global day that where everybody around the world celebrates, I suppose, everything about the internet, and also as well it's used as an opportunity to highlight, I suppose, the importance of it, the role that it plays in all our lives, but also as well for children and young people, it's an opportunity, I suppose, for them to kind of talk about any concerns or challenges that they fear around the whole online world as well. So this year, with the Irish Safer Internet Centre, we'll be having an event where we'll have loads of young people coming together to teach about tech in our world, which is the theme that they've picked for this year. So that was the panel of our colleagues and our partners in the Irish Safer Internet Centre, Webwise. So the youth panel there, they were the ones who set the theme for this year, if you like. So tech in our world, and they'll be looking at things around the whole area of generative AI, what that means for them and what that means for their future careers and their lives online as well.
And I think it's really important that the conversation is involving teenagers and young people, is led by teenagers and young people, because in terms of grown-ups' influence, you know, it's a difficult space. Mum and dad, probably it sounds like they don't know what they're on about, or you can't talk about something you don't understand. And I'm not saying that's the case, right? Or even you and I, Fiona, with to our best will in the world, it is a conversation that really has to be had amongst young people as well, so that they feel they have influence in this, because most of them will understand the pitfalls and the dangers, I think, but find themselves falling into them too.
Oh, very much so. And I suppose that is the brilliant thing about Safer Internet Day, is that it is very much youth-led around the world. And as you said, Greg, as well, yeah, they understand maybe the nuances of the issues maybe sometimes better than adults do. And I think what's really impressed us this year with the young people who've set the agenda is just how, I suppose, in touch they are with what exactly is going on, but also as well how future focused they are. And I think that's really, really important, that they're really looking, they realise that, we still talk about the online world and the offline world as being almost two separate places. But for them, both are incredibly enmeshed. They are the one. And, they can very much see that, both lives and both worlds are going to have to coexist, and they're going to have to be part of it.
And I think that's a really good point you make. And I think as adults or grown-ups or whatever, we have to realise that there is complete integration. And it's only going to, with the improvements in AI, if Meta achieve what they want to achieve in terms of augmented reality, we've seen it through but anyway, the point being is they aren't really, whether people like it or not, two separate spaces. And the idea that we can tell children that that's the case, or younger people, I think it's old information. And it's not just online based. There's work happening within schools. We talk of these young people leading these programs. A lot happening in schools across next Tuesday as well. Some schools have their mocks on, but anyway, that's besides the point. But anyway, quite a bit happening in school throughout Tuesday.
Yeah, so look, Webwise as I said, Webwise, our partners in the Irish Safer Internet Centre, are leading out on the whole area of liaising with the schools, getting schools to sign up to share what they're doing for Safer Internet Day. So we're all really looking forward to see what they're doing. But yes, each year the numbers increase in terms of participation in the day. And whilst it is just one day in the calendar, we're always encouraging schools, children, young people themselves to continue the conversation, for the remainder of the year as well, and to build on, the theme from Safer Internet Day. But yeah, very much it's a brilliant opportunity, I suppose, for schools to get involved. And Webwise also as well have their Safer Internet Day ambassador program. So again, training or educating children and young people then who go back into their schools as well, and cascade that learning down, if you like, among their peers as well.
Yeah, and I wasn't earlier on diminishing the important role that parents and guardians and anyone with influence has on young people. That is a vital role to run alongside this. And the basics still are there about, educating our younger people about safety online, making them understand, I suppose, that, what might be posted online today is there forever. It doesn't really matter about your privacy settings. The amount of time one spends online, is it actually good for you? A lot of the basic stuff that we still have to continue to communicate, I think.
Oh, very much so. And if anything, last year's Safer Internet Day really showed that to us as well, where the young people, again, they wanted to relook again at the whole area of cyberbullying. So that's something that, we may think we have solved, or we may think we have enough policies in place to address it, or enough services. But for them, it's still very much a live issue. So exactly, Greg, as you said, while they are future focused, around the whole digital space, the same issues still very much keep cropping up year on year as well. So that's why I guess it's just really important to keep the conversations going. They're not one-off conversations. So it's really important to keep talking about those issues.
And I just don't want the status quo to be that you get bullied online, or that you get that you have to send images to someone or whatever. Do you know what I mean? I think we have to push back on that and say, actually, any of that stuff is not really acceptable. And again, we all have a role in that. Okay, is there anywhere we can go to sort of get more information on, I suppose, Webwise, and also about Safer Internet Day? I.e., maybe topics for parents and guardians, or information points, so that they feel they're speaking with some sort of authority on these issues?
So first of all, I suppose, yes, webwise.ie has all the resources for teachers and for children and young people themselves with curriculum-aligned lessons. ISPCC has its digital ready hub that parents can log on to and take the quiz and just test their own knowledge, and then they'll be linked then referred to other content there that should support their learning. And also the National Parents Council at npc.ie have resources. But also as well, Greg, just to say, our other partner in the Safer Internet Centre is hotline.ie, and they will provide a really important function as well of where people can go and report any concerning material that they might have as well.
Okay, good stuff. Thanks for all that information. We really do appreciate it. Have a wonderful day and take care of yourself. That was Fiona Jennings, Head of Policy and Public Affairs at the ISPCC, and that's another Thursday, almost in the bag. Just to remind you, tomorrow, Caroline, anything in particular between 10 and 11 that I need to mention tomorrow? Aha, I thought so. That's why I was asking. Producer Caroline says Seamus Gunn's going to be on after 10 o'clock tomorrow answering your legal questions. It's always a very busy item, so get them in now. And first come, first served is as best as I'll try and do it for you. So Seamus Gunn is going to be answering your legal questions tomorrow. We also have our Friday panel, which is assembling between 9 and 10. We'll probably talk about some of the big issues that we've been talking about today. I think particularly, the return scheme, the deposit return scheme might get a mention, as will should high-vis be mandatory, and that means I can sort of take a lot of the comments that I didn't get to today into that conversation as well. And that's not set in stone, but it's likely. And then, of course, we're going to ease you into the weekend with our That's Entertainment item, which is just really talking about things, TV, radio, podcast, theatre, cinema, and all that type of stuff. So that's all coming up for you tomorrow. I normally rush that, so I didn't want to do that. There's that other thing that Caroline, that readout that I have. I don't have it at the moment. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to play you this piece of information just before we go about dementia, because it's something we're doing all week in association with the HSC, and it's just to make people more aware of dementia. 63% of people with dementia live within their community, which shows us dementia is not just a health concern, but also a social issue that needs a community response. We all have our role to play, and Dementia Understand Together in the HSC want us all and listeners to understand the importance of staying connected and engaged on the well-being of people with dementia and themselves. And we're going to leave you with an interesting, important message on this topic. Have a wonderful Thursday.
When it comes to supporting people living with dementia, you might ask, is there something I can do? The answer is, actually, more than you think. 9 in 10 of us believe people living with dementia have the right to be active citizens in their communities. But sometimes they need support to stay connected and engaged. It starts with understanding that everyone with dementia has a different experience. So, talk to them and their family. Ask them how they are and how you can help. Look around your community. Is it dementia inclusive? Is your local social or sports club welcoming people with dementia? Is your shop accessible and are spaces and amenities easy to use? It is often the small things that make the biggest difference. By being that one person who asks, what can I do? You are making that difference. For more information, visit Understand